I'm tapping in. Thank y'all for tapping into Yo Cuz podcast, man. Y'all know what it is. It's Cuz on the one and twos. Y'all already know. I'm back with another banger, and y'all already know it's Uncle Trump Day. Y'all know it's Uncle Trump Day, so make sure y'all subscribe, like, and drop a comment out of this episode. But the first thing I want to say, thank you to all my supporters that been supporting the YouTube channel. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for all the new subscribers. Thank y'all. And I just want to say thank my YouTube family, man, for staying in touch with me, man, and rolling this thing out, because we definitely lit 7 days a week. Make sure y'all tune in this weekend on Late Night Show. YouTube Late Night Show from Yo Cuz Podcast. Tap in. Let's go. Listen, another interview going on with Donald Trump. Another interview going on with Donald Trump. So make sure y'all pay attention, man. We lit. Let's go.
NBC News Special, the full President Trump interview from the Oval Office. Reporting tonight, Tom Llamas.
It has become an annual American tradition. On Super Bowl Sunday, the President of the United States sits down for a wide-ranging interview ahead of the big game. This week, I spoke with President Trump in the Oval Office, and tonight we present the full conversation. The president making a number of headlines discussing everything from the midterm elections to the economy to his administration's handling of the immigration crackdown, telling me what he learned from Minneapolis and about where ICE could head next. And with the affordability crisis impacting so many Americans right now, you'll hear about what he said and when to expect economic relief. And as the Republican Party faces growing pressures ahead of the midterms, what he said about the possibility of a Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio presidential ticket in 2028. Plus, what Trump says FBI agents were looking for when they raided an election office in Georgia, and his warning to Iran's supreme leader after that country's deadly protest crackdown. And the notable response when asked about his relationship with former President Bill Clinton. But we begin our conversation with the Super Bowl and whether he was ready to make a prediction. Mr. President, we thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
As you know, Americans are getting ready for the Super Bowl, for this great big game, and you have two teams, the Seattle Seahawks versus the New England Patriots. Who do you think is going to win?
Well, I've watched them both during the season, and New England's amazing because to have a second coming is pretty good. Quarterbacks, both good. Seattle's an amazing comeback quarterback, and the other one's just an amazing quarterback. I think it's going to be a great game. You know, I like both areas of our country very much. I better not make any predictions. You get yourself in big trouble. But I think it's going to be a really great game. Seattle's had an amazing season.
Yeah, strong defense.
New England has a great tradition of winning. And Bob Kraft's done a fantastic job. You know, the whole thing is really, it's going to be very exciting. The quarterback situation's interesting.
They're great. They're both great.
Both great.
That leads me to my next question. You have a really good relationship with the Patriots, including the former head coach, Bill Belichick. Right. What did you think when he was snubbed on the first ballot of the Hall of Fame?
I thought it was terrible. I mean, he's won so much, won so many Super Bowls, great coach. Became a little bit controversial, I guess, after that. His little period after that. During it, he was just a great coach. I thought it was very inappropriate.
You think he deserves it, the Hall of Fame?
Oh, yeah. It's like, what have you done for me lately? Well, you know, you have a great career, and he has had a little bit of a controversial year and a half, 2 years, maybe. But what difference does that make? No, he should be in there right at the top.
What are your plans for the Super Bowl? We know you're not going to go over there. You're going to watch here, and who are you inviting?
I'll be sitting in probably Palm Beach, depending on what happens. You know, in my position in this job of mine, sometimes you have to move around quickly, very quickly. Yeah. But we'll be most likely at Mar-a-Lago or one of my clubs, watching with a lot of people, a lot of friends, or I may very well be in the White House.
Friends and families just like you will be coming together on Super Bowl Sunday. People are shopping this week. Yeah. They're running the kids around. They're trying to heat their homes with this brutal winter we've been having. In the last year, a lot of prices have come down. Things like gas and eggs, but others since you took office have come up, like natural gas and coffee. When can Americans expect those prices to come down?
Well, they've already come down. I think you've seen, Tom, when I took over, eggs, poultry, all these things were through the roof. In fact, the first question I got, what are you going to do about eggs? It was my second day in office at a news conference, and they were screaming, what are you going to do about eggs? Eggs had gone up like 4 times. If you notice over the last few days, it's only a few days, but The Democrats have gone to another subject. I think they're probably saying dictator or something. They've got a new word. They don't use the word affordability anymore because prices are way down. Gasoline is, I just left Iowa, $1.99 and even $1.85 a gallon, $1.85 a gallon. That's in Iowa. Many states are cracking $2. Gasoline is way down. And honestly, everything is coming way down. Beef is coming down.
Yeah, but beef, coffee, natural
No,
gas,
they're
those are all
coming
you
down.
bring
Coffee's,
that up.
coffee's
It will
coming
come
down.
down.
Well, it's already come down. I'll tell you what, in the last 4 days, it's only 4 days, the Democrats have not uttered the word affordability. They're the ones that caused the problem. I took over a mess in every way. The border was a mess. That everybody admits. The border is great. Crime was a mess right now. 125 years. It's the lowest crime that we've had since 1900. So we're doing a job. But the one thing that they don't say anymore is affordability because I fixed the problem that they created.
Let's stay on the economy. You just mentioned it. You said you inherited a mess from President Biden when it comes to the economy. But at what point is it on you? At what point are we in the Trump economy?
Oh, I'd say we're there now. I'm very proud of it, 5.6%. You know, we have a GDP of 5.6 despite a shutdown. We had a 42-day shutdown. They call it the Democrat shutdown. And because of that, I lost 1.5 points. I would have been at a 7 GDP, which hasn't been seen, I don't know, ever maybe ever.
Yeah.
And I think 26 is even going to be better. You know, we have hundreds of billions of dollars pouring into our country. Actually, trillions. $18 trillion is being invested in our country as we speak. And there are factories and plants and thousands of businesses being built all over the country. Nobody has ever seen it. I just spoke to President Xi of China. Nobody has ever seen anything like what's happening right now in America.
When will we see those jobs and those factories open? Because manufacturing has been down.
Well, you're
month-over-month.
already seeing it in construction because they're all building. You know, we have factories being built, car plants are coming in from Canada, coming in from Mexico. They're leaving Germany, Japan. They're all coming into the United States. And you're seeing it in your construction numbers. And, you know, the plant, we have to build them. And the plants are under construction.
In
and
your
over
term, you think those plants will
Oh,
open
yeah,
in your
no,
term?
they'll be opening up over the next year and a half, yeah.
You've had successes on immigration, some big ones. Illegal border crossings are at historic lows, but the entire country watched those videos of 2 Americans being killed in Minneapolis. You've gotten calls from your own supporters to make changes, and now you're pulling out some officers from Minneapolis. Are there more changes coming?
Well, the reason we're pulling out because we've done a great job there. You know, we have crime down there despite tremendous blowback from a governor that's incompetent and from a mayor who's just, I don't know what the hell, where he comes from. But the crime numbers in Minnesota, in Minneapolis in particular, are down 25, 30% because we've removed thousands of criminals from the area. These are hardened criminals that came in, many of them, most of them came in through an open border. And we've done a great job. But look at Washington, D.C. It's like a safe city. You could walk to the White House. You didn't have to take an armored vehicle. You could walk. Washington safe. Look at what happened in Louisiana. I got a call from the governor. Please do something with New Orleans. We went there 4 weeks ago. Crime is down 71%. Memphis, Tennessee, crime is down 80% after 5 weeks. And here's the
Fuck
big
Trump,
thing.
huh?
Crime
JB, what's
historically
up?
in this country, it's down at the lowest level it's ever been. And a bad word, murder. We've had less murders than we have had in decades.
Yeah. One more question on the Super Bowl.
And you know why? Because we're tough on crime.
The Super Bowl is this sort of rare time in America, right, where we're all united.
Right.
It's a common experience. There's still divisions in this country, right? And Democrats will say it's all because of you. And then Republicans will say Democrats don't want to work with President Trump. They blame President Trump for everything. What's one thing you can do, really, to help Americans find common ground?
Well, you know, we're working on the Save America Act, which is going to secure up a lot of things, but secure up our voting. I think people would like to do it, and I think Democrats would too. You know, when you go to voter ID and you ask Democrats, it's polling at 82% with Democrats. I'm not talking about Democrat politicians. I'm talking about Democrats. We have to do something about our voting. We need strong borders. We need a fair press, which we don't have. And we need, and very importantly, we need the strong border, the fair press, and we need fair elections. We need elections where people aren't able to cheat. And we're going to do that I'm going to do that. I'm going to get it done. And by the way, it polls, even with Democrats, they want that.
Okay, let's drill down into the news today. That big change on immigration, 700 officers leaving Minneapolis. Did that come from you?
Yes, it did. But it didn't come from me because I just wanted to do it. We are waiting for them to release prisoners, give us the murderers that they're holding, and all of the bad people, drug dealers, all of the bad people. We allowed in our country, I say 25 million people with an open border policy for 4 years under Biden and that group, the Autopen group, I call them. We allowed to come into our country people the likes of which no country would accept. And we're getting them out. Yeah. But we've gotten a lot of them out. So crime now in Minnesota, crime now in Minneapolis is down. Crime in all cities is down. And you know why it's down? It's down because of us. It's down in Chicago by 25%, despite the fact that we are always dealing with these people, and they happen to be Democrats,
Speaking of
that don't know anything about crime prevention.
Mr. President, speaking of Minneapolis, what did you learn?
I learned that maybe we can use a little bit of a softer touch, but you still have to be tough. These are criminals. We're dealing with really hard criminals. But look, I've called the people. I've called the governor. I've called the mayor, spoke to them, had great conversations with them, and then I see them ranting and raving out there, literally as though a call wasn't made. We've done a great job everywhere. The only place there's been a little inflammation has been really, it's not Minnesota, because we've done well with
Los Angeles, too. There's been others. Yeah.
Well, I saved Los Angeles. The top law enforcement officer, right at the beginning of my time when they were having riots, before me and it carried into me. If I didn't go in there with the National Guard, with troops, you wouldn't have the Olympics, which I got. I got the Olympics. You wouldn't have the Olympics in Los Angeles. And he said, without the president sending in the troops, we would have lost Los Angeles. Yeah. And you know what? I saved Los Angeles. And we will do it again if we have to. And by the way, we're going to have a very safe Olympics, and we're going to have a very safe World Cup.
Speaking of Minneapolis, after the shooting of Renee Good, you said ICE made some mistakes. What were the mistakes?
Well, look, I'm not happy with the two incidents. It's not, it's both of them, not one or the other. He was not an angel, and she was not an angel. You look at some tapes from back, but still, I'm not happy with what happened there. And nobody could be happy, and ICE wasn't happy either. But I'm going to always be with our great people of law enforcement, ICE, police. We have to back them. If we don't back them, we don't have a country. If we don't back them, you're going to end up, look, Washington, D.C. was a very unsafe place to be. You couldn't walk to the White House. You couldn't walk to a restaurant. Restaurants were closing. I inherited not only a mess with the country, I inherited a horrible, very dangerous capital. Do you know Washington, D.C. is now an extremely safe place? You see what happened. You're here a lot.
When you mentioned...
you see what happened.
You're
You
here
hear
a
a
lot.
lot.
Yeah.
Would you have walked down the street a year and a half ago with your family? No. But today you can, and nothing's going to happen.
You mentioned Renee Good and Alex Peretti not being angels. Do you think any of that justified what happened to them, though?
No, I don't. It should have not happened. It was a very sad, to me, it was a very sad incident, two incidents. And, they mention the one now, they don't mention the other. Well, I think they were both sad. And you know who feels worse about it than anybody? The people of ICE. They're strong, tough people. And they have to be tough because we're dealing with hardened criminals.
Right.
We're dealing with people, jails have been emptied into our country from all over the world, from Venezuela, where we had great success, you will admit, but from Venezuela, from the Congo in Africa, from all over the world, jails, the jail population was emptied into our country. If we don't have strong people, you're not getting them out.
Yeah.
And we're getting them out. Remember this, again, I say it again and again, we have record low crime in the United States. Nobody's been able to say that for 125 years.
So I want to be clear, because it sounds like there is a shift in immigration enforcement here, that there's going to be a shift after Minneapolis. What should Americans expect going forward?
Well, one thing I say to my people, we do a good job, we don't get credit for it. I say they have to ask and they have to say please. When the city is
Who has to ask and who has to say please?
The mayor or the governor. I don't want to go and force ourselves into a city, even if their numbers are terrible. Like, for instance, I got a call from Jeff Landry, governor of Louisiana. He said, we have a big problem. Could you go in and help us with well, let's see, certain sections. I mean, to be honest with you, certain sections of the state, beyond their famous, beautiful city, certain sections of the state. We have done, not only in New Orleans, we've done a really great job in Louisiana, but I was called. I want to be called. Chicago, we could solve the Chicago crime.
Well, on that question, which cities are you headed to next?
We have 5 cities that we're looking at very strongly, but we want to be invited. We will sometimes call the governors and
Are
say,
these cities
"Are
like
you going to
Chicago,
invite-"
Philadelphia? Are these the cities?
We could straighten out the crime in Chicago. We've already brought it down 25% just by being there. We could have Chicago be a safe city, just like DC is a safe city, just like all of these places that we've gone to. And I look forward. You know, I didn't campaign on that. I campaigned on law and order, but I didn't think I'd be going into individual cities and making them safe.
Anything else you can tell us about the 5 cities? The 5 cities, anything else? So Americans are ready?
We'll be announcing them very quickly, but we could do something. As an example, I was called by people. San Francisco said, please, we have a Democrat mayor. He's trying very hard. Would you, friends of mine that live there, it's got crime problems. Would you let him do the job and not come in? Let's see how it works. I said, look, I can do it much quicker, much faster. Don't forget, we remove criminals. We took over 2,000 hardcore criminals out of Washington, D.C. If we didn't do that, 2% of the people create 2%. So you have a criminal, because it's over and over again, 2% create 90% of the crime. We took out 2,000 people, more than 2,000 people out of Washington, D.C., and we now have a safe city.
As I mentioned, you've had success on immigration. Illegal border crossings are at historic lows, right?
You know, it's so nice that you said that.
But if you look at
Tom,
okay,
what you just said.
It's true.
No, but it's so nice. I hope you air it. It's so nice what you said, because that's called good reporting. That's called fair reporting. Now give me the second part.
Now let me give you the second part of the question.
I don't want to hear the second part.
But if you look at the polls, most Americans say they don't like how you've handled immigration, right? Especially what's happened in Minneapolis. How do you change their minds?
Well, I don't believe the polls, for one thing, because how can you not I saw a poll in the border where I'm at 55%, okay?
The polls show that Americans aren't against the deportations. It's the handling of immigration.
You know, polls, it depends on the way you ask the question. I saw a poll on the border. I'm at 55%.
Man said depends on how you ask the question.
How can I only be at 55% when everybody agrees that the border is totally, beautifully closed and nobody's coming in unless they come in legally, et cetera. It couldn't be better. I should be 100%. I don't believe the polls. And some polls, I mean, I could show you polls where I'm polling at 69% popularity, and some polls where I have one at
We'll ask the White House to share that with us. Yeah.
71%. And then I have polls where I'm at 44% and 42%.
If you're looking to learn how to trade, a community is very important. And I've joined previous communities, and
the polls are almost dishonest, almost as dishonest as some of the reporters themselves.
Yeah.
But I'm getting very good polls. I'm getting very good polls on crime prevention, on law and order, and on the border. I have to. And I'm starting to get great polls on the economy, which I think is
the polls on the economy they're not great.
They should be great.
They should be. So why aren't they? If you believe that,
I said they should.
I mean, look, I've got
Americans tell us, we hear this. I mean, we're going to get into the economy later, but I mean, they tell us they don't feel this.
Just so you understand. Yeah. I have $18 trillion being invested into the country. Biden had less than $1 trillion for 4 years, and the whole country was going to credit.
When does America feel it?
Do you know that if they won that election, and we won in a landslide, do you know if they won that election, this country I think it was finished. I think we would have been Venezuela on steroids.
I have a question about immigration still looking forward now. Your goal during the election was to deport everyone who came here illegally under President Biden. Is your mission now to deport everyone who came in illegally, or just people who have come in illegally who have also committed additional crimes?
We are totally focused on criminals, really bad criminals. Now, you could say people that came in illegally are criminals, but I'm talking about murderers from different countries. We have 11,888 murderers that Biden and his group led into our country. We've captured a lot of them. We've brought some of them back. A lot of them we don't want to bring back because we don't trust the country that they're not sent back again.
Yeah.
Despite how strong the borders are, they'll figure a way to try and get in, and we don't want to, and we'll incarcerate them. But
Yes.
11,888 murders.
Yeah.
We are after those people. We're after the drug dealers.
Right.
We're after we are after, by the way, a big problem. They allowed to come into our country people from their mental institutions, people from insane asylums
Yeah.
that are mentally ill and very dangerous. We're getting them
Right.
out.
Joe Rogan, who was one of your biggest endorsers in 2024, he said he understands that the president's sort of plan to deport people here who are here illegally, but he also understands why critics compare ICE officers to the Gestapo asking people for their papers. What's your response to him?
Well, look, first of all, he's a great guy. We had a tremendous success before the election. I think it was his biggest interview ever, and over 300 million people. It was very good. She didn't want to do it, you know. She decided not to do it because she's not capable. But I spoke to him 3 days ago. We had a great conversation. And all I'm doing, I have to keep.
Did he
the
mention
country
this to you? Did you guys talk about this, the ICE
A little
enforcement?
bit.
Yeah.
Just had a good conversation. I think he's a great guy, and I think he likes me too.
Yeah.
And, you know, liking me isn't important. What happens is that I think we do a phenomenal job, but I don't think we're good at public relations.
What does that mean? You've said that a couple times now. What do you mean by that?
We don't sell the great job that we're doing. Look, we have the
Is
safest
that your
country.
staff? Are those your staffers?
Excuse me, people from your persuasion, somewhat left, do a job on numbers. It just came out that in 125 years, we have the safest country. The best crime numbers since the year 1900.
That's
okay?
a stat. Yeah, we know
That
it's
was
true.
way before my father was born.
Right.
Think of that. And yet, then you talk about crime, or you talk about this, or you talk about that, and the poll numbers aren't that good. People, we don't do a good public relations job. That's why I'm doing the interview with you today.
We appreciate
I'm trying to
it.
help my people. You know, PR, public relations.
Speaking of your people, you're never afraid to shake up your team. You've said that you're okay with shaking up your team. Do you still believe in Kristi Noem to deliver on your vision of immigration?
Look, she was in charge of the border. The border's closed. I mean, everybody gives me A+ on the border. The border was a disaster. People were pouring into our country.
But what about the
They don't even
enforcement?
try and come up now. You know the beautiful thing? The caravans. I think I came up with that name. Thousands of people, 25, 30,000 people in a group. You know who sent them? Their countries. They sent the people that they didn't want. Not only criminals, people that didn't want to work hard, et cetera. They know who it is. They sent them into our country. We have nobody coming in anymore. We have very good. You just asked me, Kristi, we have the best crime numbers that we've had in 125 years. I think she's doing a very good job. Again, public relations. She's not getting credit for the job that she does.
Let's move to the economy now.
And excuse me, what is
yeah.
sad though, and it is, we had the two primary incidents in Minnesota.
He gonna always lie.
And you shook up leadership there. You brought Tom Homan in.
Yeah, I did. And Tom is great. Tom is a superstar. But you do thousands of arrests. You arrest thousands of rapists. You arrest thousands of the worst people. You arrest the drug dealers. I mean, we had drug kingpins. We had murderers. Thousands. No incident. We bring them back to their country.
At all.
2 people. It's bad. I hate it. I hate even talking about it. 2 people out of tens of thousands, okay? And you get bad publicity. Nobody talks about all of the murderers that were taken out of our country. They don't talk about...
But it was 2
they
Americans
don't talk
who died,
about
you
we
know?
have the smallest trucks. As an example, we've been very tough on the waters, and soon, you know, pretty much overall. But if you
the
look
waters?
at the waters
No
where
way.
we knock out boats, each boat that we knock out, we save 25,000 American lives. We're
Damn.
doing a job like nobody's ever seen before. I just got off the phone with President Xi, and he is amazed at how well the United States is doing. 'Cause he said he's never seen anything like it.
You brought the conversation, Mr. President, so let me ask you, what did you talk about with the leader of
We talked
China?
about a lot of topics. We talked
What's
about
the most
so much.
important topic? Is it chips? Is it the wars in Ukraine? What is
You
going
said
on?
I would
it's
say
chips.
the economy, the relationship that we have with China. I'm going to be going there in April. Then he's coming here toward the end of the year.
Coming to the White House?
He's coming to the White House, toward the end of the year. We have a very good relationship. And, you know, it's important that
Not
I
the
have
mummy.
a good relationship, and for him that he has a good relationship with me. We have to have a good... These are the 2 most powerful countries in the world, and We have a very good relationship.
You talk about
We
tariffs?
spoke for an hour.
Does he ask you about the tariffs? Is he saying this
Well,
is
they're
hurting
paying
us?
a lot of tariffs, as you know. China's paying a lot of tariffs. In the past, they didn't. I'm the one that put tariffs on China. I put tariffs on a lot of tariffs, or just so you understand, making our country rich. Our country has taken in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, really trillions, because the threat of tariffs is getting all of these countries to lose to us.
Yeah.
And by the way, they've been doing it to us for 40 years. And now, but I'm doing it very judiciously, very fairly. But tariffs
It's always
are bringing
what
in
he
tremendous
doing.
amounts of money. I just gave $12 billion to our farmers because they were mistreated by
12
certain
billion.
countries.
Yeah.
Tariff
You
money.
gave up 12
We're
billion to
taking
the
in
farmers.
hundreds of billions.
No, and I want to
of
ask you
dollars.
about that. I want to get into that. Talking about the
Hell no.
economy, you've brought a lot of prices down, as we said. Some are still stubborn.
Very few.
But when you, very few. I get it.
Very
Yeah.
few.
When you talk to Americans, though, do you have to get them to understand that the prices are not going to come back down to your first term because we had a pandemic and we had record inflation? Are people's expectations too high, or is it just too expensive to live in America?
I just, again, don't think we're selling it properly. We've done a great job.
But it's expensive out there.
You saw gasoline this last week at $1.99 a gallon. It used to be, it was $4.50, $5 a gallon. $1.99 a gallon.
I can't
gasoline.
say that. He right about that.
I think we've really bring it. I mean, I don't expect them to be much higher. Now, there's a natural inflation.
But they're never
Remember
going to go
this.
down to that first term.
I inherited the worst inflation in the history of our country. It was through the roof. Now, you will say it wasn't in history, it was 48 years. You know, there's a theory that was, I say it was the worst. But whether it's 48 years, I inherited the worst inflation in the history of our country, and now we have almost no inflation. Think of it.
Right.
You know what it was for the last 3 months? 1.2%.
Right.
You know what it was under Biden? You can't count that high.
Yeah.
I inherited the worst inflation. I inherited the worst crime. I inherited high prices. So when I inherited
Inflation is
all
down
of those
2.7 right now, but it is down.
No.
Yeah.
For the last three, don't forget, I inherited this mess.
Right.
For the last 3 months, it's at 1.2%.
$5 in
You know that,
California.
But the last, okay.
Last 3 months.
You floated the idea of $2,000 rebate checks for Americans from tariff revenue. Who's going to get that, and when is that going to happen?
We'd make it. I'm looking at it very seriously. I'm the only one can do it because I'm taking in hundreds of billions of dollars of
But
money.
you can
from
promise some Americans will get those checks?
Oh yeah, sure. I can
know.
do that. I haven't made the commitment yet, but I may make the commitment.
So it's not a
Well, I
done
just
deal.
gave 1776, right?
Yeah.
To the military. Right?
Yeah.
$1,776.
But you said all
You know, it's
Americans.
1775. They presented it to me because that's what we have in a budget that I created because I want to take care of our military. Nobody takes care of the military like I do. So $1,775.
He just gave him
I
like
said, wait a minute, if you had
$1,700
$1,
a check.
1776. You know that's quite a famous date,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
So anyway, wait, so I gave
Wait.
1,776 to our military, and they are very thankful.
Let's get to the Fed.
And now I may be doing
Yeah.
that with regard to the entire population.
Okay. Let's get to the Fed. Is there any doubt in your mind that interest rates are going to be lowered?
Not much.
Why? How can you say
I
that?
just think they're going to be lowered. I mean, they should.
Is your
be
new
lowered.
Fed pick on board with that?
We're way high. Okay, we're way high in interest. We have now, with me, and with all the money, I've always been good at money. And with all the money coming into our
That man
country,
said,
we're a
always
rich
been
country
good with
again.
money.
We have debt, but we also have growth.
No, he
And the
can't.
growth will soon make the debt look very small. Because it's the greatest way, you have two ways. You can cut, and we do that anyway, and we did that. You know, we got rid of hundreds of thousands of federal workers.
Yeah.
And those workers went out and got themselves jobs in the free enterprise system. And you know what? That's called making America great again. We had 10 workers in the federal government for every single job. When the Democrats go in, they hire. I could right now give you the best employment numbers in history. You know what I do? Go
Let's
out and
do that.
hire 2 million people, put them in the federal government.
Does your new Fed
I
pick...
do the
Yeah.
opposite.
Does your new Fed pick understand that you want him to lower interest rates?
Oh, I think he does, but I think he wants to anyway. I mean, if he came in and said, I want to raise them, we
If
should
he said
have-
that, he wouldn't have gotten the job.
He would not have gotten the job, no. No.
Do
If
you
I
believe-
thought he was a interest rate, now there'll be times if I see inflation on the horizon, but we don't have that. We have low inflation. Remember, 1.2% inflation in the last 3 months. We have low inflation, and we have tremendous growth. You haven't had these numbers like this.
Right.
We have, think of it, low inflation, great growth. Now, all I have to do is one thing, easy, get down the interest rate.
Do you think the Fed chair answers to you or is an independent body?
Well, I mean, in theory, it's an independent body, but I think, I'm a smart guy. I know the economy better than almost everybody.
So he answers to you.
They did that prediction chart a year ago, and they had 71 great economists and me making the predictions. And, only 2 people were right, me and one other guy who is a very smart professor from a certain school that I went to.
Yeah.
Very good school.
Yeah.
And the 2 of us were right. Everybody else was wrong.
There's been bipartisan suggestions that the criminal investigation to the current Fed chair, Jerome Powell, is payback, right? For not lowering interest rates, but also for when he was in that sort of news conference with you with the hard hats and he was shaking his head and showing you the papers and disagreeing with you in public. Is that why he's under criminal investigation?
He was very respectful to me. He wasn't just, he was explaining to me. I'm asking him, why are you spending almost $4 billion on a very small little complex of buildings? It's the highest price per square foot. He's renovating buildings for $3 to $4 billion. And this Fed chair that I have I think is going to be great. He might not have a home because this guy has spent so much money. And I looked, it's a see-through. There's nothing inside. They are spending money. He's in charge of the project. This is the Federal Reserve building I'm talking about. It's a very small little, it's actually a couple of little buildings. They're spending more money than any building ever built in history per square foot.
Some Republican senators say they're not going to approve him unless you drop that investigation.
A lot of people say a lot of things.
You don't think that's true? You think,
I don't know.
Is it worth it to drop the investigation to get your Fed chair through?
I think the investigation is the investigation. It's being handled by Pam and Janine and the people. They'll make their own decision on it.
Let's talk about AI. Have you ever used...
But I do say this about...
Yeah.
You can't let a man spend billions of dollars doing a bill. I would have done that job for $25 million, and it would have been done much better.
Right.
They're spending billions of dollars on a renovation of a little complex.
Let's talk about AI. Have you ever used ChatGPT or Claude?
I haven't really, but I know all about it. Let me just talk about AI.
Yeah.
AI is a big deal. AI is going to be maybe the biggest thing, bigger than the internet, bigger than anything else. We are leading China by a lot. We are leading everybody by a lot. They're all building their factories here. And you know what I did for the electric? Because they need twice the electric as we currently produce for the whole country, which is crazy. Nobody can do that. But so what I did is I came up with a concept. Each building that is built is going to generate their own electricity. They're going to build their own electric plant. We are building numbers of AI. And by the way, also auto plants, everything.
Right.
We're building everything. But do you know, I just left Michigan. I was with Ford. They were going to close this building that was built in the early 1900s, one of the biggest factories. They were going to close it. It was scheduled to close prior to my election. After I won the election, they said, let's try keeping it open. They just went to 3 shifts. It's 24 hours a day. And the head of Ford, Mr. Ford, said it's the most incredible auto comeback I've ever seen.
Mr. President, let me ask you, there's no doubt you are the president who's ushering in the AI revolution, but this is happening on your watch. If AI affects humanity in a negative way, is that on you? Because some of these CEOs of AI companies say, we need guardrails. This could get out of control. Does that worry you?
Everything's on me as president. Everything's on me. I can say this, it'll be the greatest jobs producer. It'll be the greatest military producer. It'll be the greatest medical producer. There'll be tremendous good. And there'll be probably some bad too.
Well, it's killing a lot of jobs. And what do you say to Americans who are going to lose their jobs to AI?
It's going to create a lot of jobs.
But right now, it's taking jobs in a lot of ways. It's taking jobs from companies like Amazon. What would you say to those Americans?
But it hasn't really started. These major plants haven't even been built. What you're going to see...
but Mr. President, AI has already started to take jobs because the technology is there.
So we have, it's just announced, more jobs right now occupied in the United States of America than at any time during its existence, 250 years. There are more people working today than at any time in the history of our country. Pretty good stat.
That
kills that question.
Yeah, we have to look it up.
That's a good answer. That kills that question.
Mr. President, there's widespread concern that AI is going to wipe out a lot of jobs, manufacturing jobs.
They said the internet was going to do, everything was going to do, robots are going to kill jobs, everything's going to kill jobs, and you end up, if you're smart, doing great.
Okay, you are close with the
He said if
Ellisons,
you're
who are
smart, you're
trying
doing
to stop
great.
a merger between Warner Brothers, Discovery, and Netflix. This deal could change the makeup of the media as we know it. Are you personally going to get involved in that deal?
I haven't been involved. I must say, I guess I'm considered to be a very strong president. I've been called by both sides. It's the two sides. But I've decided I shouldn't be involved. The Justice Department will handle it.
Okay.
Yeah.
In what way? Just looking at it to see if
Well,
it's
they're going to
regular?
make a decision. I mean, there's a theory that one of the companies is too big and it shouldn't be allowed to do it, and the other company is saying something else about, they're knocking the
But
hell
you're
out
not
of
going to
each other.
interfere, even though
They're
you're close
beating
with the
the hell out of
Ellisons.
each other, and there'll be a winner.
Okay, let's talk about the midterms. You've recently suggested nationalizing
do.
elections. What do you mean by that?
And I didn't say national, I said there are some areas in our country that are extremely corrupt. They have very corrupt elections. Take a look at Detroit. Take a look at Philadelphia. Take a look at Atlanta. There are some areas that are unbelievably corrupt. I could give you plenty more too. I say that we cannot have corrupt elections. If we have to, if they don't straighten it out. As an example, voter ID. Why don't the Democrats want voter ID? You know who does want voter ID? Democrat voters want it, but Democrat
I didn't know
politicians
that.
don't. Why don't they want it? Because they want to cheat on elections. Can you imagine if I were a politician and they asked me, do you want voter identification? And I said, no, there's no way you could win that debate.
But even
The Democrats don't want voter ID. If they don't want voter ID, that means they want to cheat. We can't allow
Does
cheating
mean
in
they wanna
elections. Now,
cheat.
if we need to put in federal controls as opposed to state controls, remember this, they're really an agent. They're really accumulating the votes for who wins an election. If they can't do it honestly and it can't be done properly and timely, then something else has to happen.
Will you trust the results of the midterms if Republicans lose control of Congress?
I will, but if the elections are honest. Look, I want the last one that wants to complain. I just had a great election. They say one of the greatest elections.
I just had a great
you will agree,
election.
ever. Won all 7 swing states. Won 84% of the counties in America. That's why the map is all red. We just had a great election. I believe there was cheating. I think there was cheating.
Well,
in this
speaking
election,
of counties,
but
what are you doing in Fulton
it was
County?
Too big to read.
Speaking of counties, what is happening in
I'm
Fulton
not
County?
doing anything, but the FBI went in because it's been under I guess, review
You're right.
for years. The cheating that took place in Fulton
What are they
County
looking for?
and
'Cause
in that particular
nobody knows
state.
what's in the warrant. What are
Well,
they
you're gonna
looking
find
for?
out. Look, why would anybody be upset that they went in and they got the ballots? I guess, right?
Yeah.
Again, they did this. That's been under review and under investigation for 4 years, and now they got a court order. You know, they got a court
Yeah.
order signed by
But nobody knows what
a
the
respected
evidence is
but
looking for.
liberal
Yeah.
judge signed a court order allowing them to go in and pick them up.
White people don't.
Well, you're going to know what the ballots say because they're right now inspecting the ballot. I'm not involved in
know.
it, but they are inspecting and checking the ballot.
Why is Tulsi Gabbard there?
I don't know, but you know, a lot of the cheating comes from it's international cheating. You have people, they say, from China trying
put
to.
this on
let me
Truth
ask you,
Social.
do you think China tries to influence our election?
We know that foreign governments try to influence a lot of things in
Well,
this country.
therefore,
But,
she's foreign government.
but you tweeted out some theories about Italians and satellites. I mean, do you believe that stuff?
No, I didn't cheat. I sometimes will read truth.
Yeah.
I will read truth.
Okay.
But let me ask you this. If China or any of these countries are involved in our elections, that would bring her into it. And everybody knows that Russia, they talked about Russia, it turned out to be a hoax. It was Hunter Biden, it wasn't Russia. Look, we have to have honest elections.
Yeah.
There should be nothing wrong with the fact that they went in, got ballots from a while ago, and they're going to look at them. And now they're going to find out the true winner of that state.
Yeah.
And you know what? If there was cheating, which there was, but if there was cheating, it should be found because we can't let it happen again.
Mr. President, I have a few more important questions
Yeah.
for you. If that's okay with you. Yeah?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, they've all been important.
Let's go to. There's a new lawsuit by you and your family that you're suing the IRS for $10.5 billion for leaking your tax documents. Is this a good use of taxpayer money?
You can't leak documents.
Why do you?
And any money that I win, I'll give it to charity, 100% to charity. Charities that will be approved by government or whatever. I have another lawsuit with the United States. I sued because they broke into Mar-a-Lago.
But that's taxpayer money. It's going to get taken out of the system. I know it's going to charity, you're going to say.
And I've won that case. I mean, they broke in, the FBI illegally, Biden and his group. It wasn't Biden. He didn't know what he was doing. It was a group of very smart radical left people. They're very smart. They've lost their way.
Right.
And they broke into Mar-a-Lago. They broke into my home. They went through
Well, they had warrants.
my wife's drawers.
Yeah.
They went through, that's a double meaning. They went through Barron's, my son's, everything. They went through the whole house. Hundreds of people. They went in with guns. They went in, guns
How would
would
this
have been
work?
ablazing.
So how would this work?
Wait.
Yeah.
I brought a lawsuit. Essentially, the lawsuit's been won. I guess I won a lot of money.
How would this work, though? Scott Bessent's the head of the IRS.
What I would
Pam
do-
Bondi's the head of the Justice Department. They're going to defend the IRS against you. You're their boss.
Well, there's never been anything like it, in all fairness.
So are you going to tell them to pay you?
Don't forget, I sued as a private citizen because I sued between terms. I won
But are you
3
gonna tell them to
times.
pay you?
I won 3 times, but I didn't assume, unfortunately for this country, I didn't assume office the second time. But here's the story. I sued because they broke into Mar-a-Lago. That was before I became president. Now it goes along, and it turned out that the suit is a very strong suit.
You're going to tell them to pay you, though? Because you're the boss.
Well, what I would do, tell them to pay me, but I'll give 100% of the money to charity. I don't want any of the money.
Take it out of the system. A couple more questions here.
No, I'm putting it back into the system. If I give money
He
to
said you
American
take it out the
Cancer
system.
Society, I will give 100% of the money away to charity. I don't want any of it.
$30 trillion debt, and we're going to take $10 billion out of the system?
Well, I mean, you give it away anyway. They give away a lot of money.
Your endorsement
I'll
is
tell
the
you
mo-
what,
Yeah.
speaking about that, Minnesota and these other states, we have massive investigations going into fraud.
Yeah.
Do you know if we captured 50% of the fraud of this country right now, we would have better than a balanced budget. And you got to mention that Minnesota, $19 billion in fraud that we know about.
Your endorsement is the most important thing in the Republican primary.
No, in any primary.
Will you endorse in the 2028 presidential primary?
I hadn't even thought of it, but probably, yeah. I mean, I'd be inclined.
He said probably,
I have great people. We have a great bench. We have a lot of people. But yeah, I think so.
You've suggested that J.D. Vance, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio would be a tough ticket to beat. Who should be at the top of that ticket?
Well, I don't want to get into this. We have 3 years to go. I don't want to, I have 2 people that are doing a great job. I don't want to have an argument with, I don't want to use the word fight. It wouldn't be a fight. But look, JD is
I don't want to use
fantastic,
the
and
word
Marco's
fight, but it
fantastic.
won't be
They're
a
both
fight.
doing a
How are they
great job.
different?
And I do think this. It's a great question. I think that's your most interesting question. I would say one is slightly more diplomatic than the other. I think they're both of very high intelligence. I mean, they will do shows. They will do Joe Rogan as opposed to the opponent not doing it because they couldn't handle it. They will be able to do whatever they have to do. I think there's a difference in style. You can see the style yourself, but they're both very capable. I do think the combination of JD and Marco would be very hard to be beaten, I think. But you never know in politics, right? They say, in the age of Trump, you never know.
Yeah. On January 21st, 2029, do you see any scenario where you are still president?
I don't know. It would be interesting. But wouldn't it be terrible if I agreed with, if I gave you the answer that you're looking for? It would make life so much less exciting, right? It would be so much less exciting. But I only do this for one reason. Make America great again. And that's what we're doing. We're making America great again, greater than ever before. Our country is greater than ever before. We're a rich nation. We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs from nations that took advantage of us. They thought we were stupid. They thought we were fools. They laughed at us. People were laughing at us 1.5 years ago. They laughed at this country. They're not laughing anymore. They respect us. And I get along
not
with
laughing
them. They
anymore.
respect us.
Mr. President, I have pages and pages of questions, but they're telling me my time is up. I thank you for your time.
We'll do it again. Thank you.
Mr. President, thank you.
That concludes the sit-down portion of our interview with the president. Right after this break, we'll show you our walk and talk inside the Oval Office where we discussed Iran, the Clintons, and the president's own health. Stay with us.
A healthy liver helps your body process food.
All right, Dad, what are you making?
My new go-to morning smoothie.
We're back now with the rest of the full interview with President Trump following our exclusive sit-down. We immediately continued the conversation where he showed me some of the Oval Office, but we also discussed important topics like Iran, Cuba, and his own health. Here's that conversation in its entirety.
This room had almost no pictures up.
Yeah.
And these pictures all came from the vaults.
Yeah.
And they're magnificent. I mean, I think they're magnificent and all, you know, first run, top of the line stuff, but mostly of presidents. We have a couple with Ben Franklin, but I think he qualifies, right? Ben Franklin's pretty good.
Is there any one you ever kind of
It
hone in on
is,
when you're
cuz,
thinking
this
deeply
shit
about anything, about an
crazy,
issue, or
cuz,
one
you
you
hear
look
me?
at?
Maybe
It's
all of them
crazy
except
how
different. George
social media
Washington.
just take over the
and
world,
you have
bro.
Jefferson, and I took Ronald Reagan in, gave him a place of honor also. Did a great job. But
So Joe, he
honest
took
Abe
all the
Lincoln,
old.
Who do you have up here? I mean, these are big ones
that's
here.
Ulysses
From the
S. Grant,
basement.
George
And
Washington.
move him upstairs.
Here we have the famous, come on over here. Here we have Declaration of Independence. That's one of the three. This was in the vaults for many years, and I said, it's time to take it out of the vaults.
Do you think at one point people will talk about you when they talk about presidents like Washington and Lincoln? Is that something you think is going to happen?
All I know is this, it's such an honor, but all I know, I'm walking down, and everyone's screaming, goat, goat. I said, what are they talking about? I hope they're right. Not for me, but for the country. Because if I do a great job, that means the country is doing well.
You're building the new ballroom. We hear about this new arch you're building, the Garden of Heroes as well. You're building a lot of things that are going to cement your legacy. Are you also doing this so the country never forgets you?
No, I think we need glamour brought back to our country. We need prestige. We need beauty brought. I mean, in addition to everything else, we need strength. We need all of those things. Like I'm doing an arc, a triumphal, they call it a triumphal arc. 57 cities have arcs. Yeah. We're the only major important city. Washington, D.C. should have maybe the first arc. Yeah. We're doing one that will be more magnificent and larger than the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. I would say the Paris arc is probably the most
stunning.
It's incredible. We're going to do one that's going to top it.
Is it true it's going to be 250 feet to mark
the
anniversary?
It'll be about that, yeah. It'll be a little bit taller than the one in Paris. It'll be a little bit larger than the one in Paris.
You're doing a lot of things for the 250th anniversary.
Yeah.
What do you want Americans to feel this July 4th?
Strength, victory, security. You have a secure country. We've done so much militarily. We have a great military. I mean, you saw Venezuela. That was the people, the general that was in charge, he lived. He said he's never seen anything like it. They were all ready.
You talked about the weapon, the discombobulator. What is that?
Discombobulator. Well, I'm not allowed to talk about it.
What does it do?
Let me just tell you, you know what it does? None of their equipment works. That's what it does. Everything was it was my name. I'm very proud of the name. Everything was discombobulated. It was, you know, practically a shot wasn't, you know, they were ready.
Right.
And when we came, I mean, they couldn't do anything.
You saw this on the video. You could tell.
Tom, it discombobulated everything.
Nothing worked, even including humans.
Well, let's put it this way. We lost no equipment in a very strong, and they're good fighters, great fighters. In a very bad environment, it was a military base, the biggest in South America.
That's great.
In a very, because the house was in a base in South, in a very, very tough environment, we lost no men and we lost no equipment.
The discombobulator just knocked everything.
Well, it did something.
It did something. Did Delcy Rodriguez work with you guys before that raid?
I can't talk about that. I mean, I don't talk about.
Do you trust her?
Well, so far she's done a great job. I mean, so far she and all of the people that are working with her. Remember in Iraq, they got rid of everybody. They had no generals, they had no people, they had nobody to run the government. Turned out to be a mess, and that's where ISIS came from. You know, that's where ISIS came from. Came from the military and all the people. They formed ISIS. It was handled very badly. But this is handled very well.
Do you think the Cuban government will still be there the current leadership will still be there by the end of your term?
Well, Cuba, now you're asking a different question. Cuba's in big trouble. Humanitarian aid is going to have to be sent there. They're in big trouble.
It's a disaster.
They got their money from Venezuela. They got their oil from Venezuela. They turned the oil into money, et cetera, and there's none of that happening anymore. They're in big trouble. We are
Do you
talking.
think that government is still there, though? Do you think that government lasts?
I don't want to say that, but we are talking to Cuba.
You're talking to Cuba.
You know what? Look, we have tens of thousands of people that were forced out there here. They voted for me, 94% Cuban population, previous Cuban population. Now they're Cuban Americans. Maybe they go back. Maybe they want to go back. They're going to have that choice. But for years, they've been talking about this happening. Now it's happening. We are talking to Cuba. We want to open it up to those people that want to visit. Even, I think most people, when they're here, they want to stay here. I hope that's true. I hope we're not going to lose them. But they're going to have options. And they're going to be able to go back, Tom, and see their loved ones, see their family, their friends.
Should the supreme leader in Iran be worried right now?
I would say he should be very worried, yeah. He should be. As you know, they're negotiating with us.
I know they are, but the protesters have said, where are the Americans? You promised them we would have their back. Do we still have their back?
Well, we've had their back. And look, that country's a mess right now because of us. We went in, we wiped out their nuclear.
So
if I didn't take out, we have peace in the Middle East.
Yeah.
If I didn't take out their nuclear, think of it. If we didn't take out that nuclear, we wouldn't have peace in the Middle East because the Arab countries could have never done that. They were very, very afraid of Iran. They're not afraid of Iran anymore. We wiped out those beautiful B-2 bombers, one's right over there, those beautiful little model. Those beautiful B-2 bombers went in and they hit their target, every single bomb, and obliterated it. And because of that, they were going to have a nuclear weapon within 1 month.
Yeah.
Within 1 month, they were going to have a nuclear weapon. Yeah. That was a big threat. That they're not going to have it anymore.
But if we obliterate it, what's the deal about? I mean, if there's no more, are they trying to restart the nuclear program?
Well, I heard that they are, and if they do, and I let them know, if they do, we're going to send them right back and do their job again.
So your understanding is they tried to restart it, and that's why you're threatening force?
They tried to go back to the site. They weren't even able to get near it. There was total obliteration. But they were thinking about starting a new site in a different part of the country. We found out about it. I said, you do that, we're going to do very bad things to you.
Yeah. Mr. President, the ballroom over here, I want you to show it to me because the thing you said that stood out to me, it's going to be massive, but it's got a drone-proof ceiling and it's got bulletproof windows. What does that mean?
Bulletproof windows because, well, we're in a different time. If somebody's up making a speech, we're going to have the inauguration there. We're going to probably have, I would say, definitely it's going to be large enough, but we have drone-proof ceilings.
What does that mean?
That means if a drone hits the ceiling, it bounces off. It doesn't blow up a building.
It's a fortress.
It's protection.
Damn.
Well, it's going to be very heavy steel.
Damn.
Very simple.
You hear that shit, Joe? Y'all hear
because
that?
of that, do you?
And by the way, the
Drone
ballroom is
protection.
so beautiful. It'll be the most beautiful ballroom of its kind, and it's very much in keeping with the White House.
You survived that assassination attempt that we all covered. It was terrible, 2 of them. Do you worry about your safety? I mean, when you think about the ball, you do?
I worry about it, but you have to put it out of your mind. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do your job.
You didn't think about it as much before.
didn't
Now you
think
think
of
about it a
y'all.
lot.
Maybe it could be. I mean, you look statistically.
Nigga
I'm
say
in a very
drone
dangerous
protector.
job. I mean, if
Bombs
you take
or
a look at the
whatever, we'll
walls,
do
if
it,
you
it
take
ain't
a
gonna
look,
fuck it up.
statistically, this is a much more dangerous job than being a race car driver or riding those Broncos. Those bulls are tough, right? But I wouldn't want to do that. But statistically, being president is the most dangerous job there is.
We first met 10 years ago when you were running the first time. How do you feel now as you approach 80?
I feel great. I mean, physically and mentally, I feel like I did 50 years ago. It's crazy. Now, there'll be a time when I won't be able to give you that answer, but that time hasn't come. I do. I think it's very important. I've done more physicals. I take physicals just to give the report out.
Yeah.
I take cognitive physicals. So I do a cognitive mind test, okay? And a lot of people wouldn't be able to do very well. Not easy. You get to those last questions. I've aced. I've done 3 of them. No other president has agreed to do them. I do them because I have no problem with it because I'm 100%. Now, there will be a time.
Still taking the aspirin? Still taking the aspirin?
I do. I take aspirin. And I don't want to change, I don't want to.
So you go against your doctor's orders. You do what you kind of feel.
I've been taking aspirin for 30 years, and I don't want to change it. So, they say take the smaller one. I say, well, I want that blood to be nice and thin running through my heart.
If at any point your age impacts your job,
Yes.
who's going to tell you that, or do you think you'll know yourself?
I think I'll know myself. Yeah. I think I'll know myself. I wouldn't do an interview with you, as an example.
Yeah.
Did Biden do an interview before Super Bowl? I'm not sure. Maybe he did.
Last
maybe
one,
he
you didn't.
I mean, he wasn't capable of doing an interview. And that was things. Look, you know, I know people that are 95 years old that are sharp as a tack. Biden was a bad thing for old people. He's the worst thing that ever happened to old people because he obviously didn't have it. And one of the things that's so depressing about the press is the press refused to
This man
report
terrible,
the
Mo.
obvious. And he did have very smart people around him, but they had a radical left culture, and they were very bad for this country. This country would not have survived 2 more years if one of them got elected.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to speak about the DOJ. I appreciate all your time and of your staff's time. They've been
We'll do
very, very
another one.
kind.
Yeah.
Should anybody else expect the DOJ to kind of come after them like you've come over after some of your political
Well,
enemies?
you remember this time?
Yeah.
I was impeached twice, 2 fake impeachments, won both of them easily. Republicans
Easily.
stood by me 100%, but I won both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I was indicted 87 different times. And then you ask me that question. So I think I'm extremely moderate, especially for what they did to me. They wanted to take me down. I
Nobody.
said to somebody, do me a favor. add up
Everybody
the
gonna vote
counts.
for him,
If
though.
I
You got
lost, I
old people.
won. But if I lost these cases, add up the counts and tell me how long would I have to serve in prison? You know what they came up with? 287 years. I said, I better win.
In your mind, that calculation means it's okay for the DOJ to go after your
it
political
isn't.
enemies?
No, it isn't. And I could be involved. You know, I'm the chief law enforcement officer of the United States. I could be involved, but I'm not. I don't choose to. But when they say to me, oh, you're going after people, I got indicted all of those times. It's 287 years in jail they were willing to put. You know, they asked me a question yesterday at the press conference about Clinton because of the testimony, the Epstein thing, which turned out that I have nothing to do, and they did, about Epstein. And they said, do you think it's terrible, what, you know, with the subpoenas and everything, and they're disobeying the subpoenas? And I actually said, it's a shame. You have an ex-president, and you have, you know, the president's wife and Secretary of State. And I said, it's a shame. It is a shame.
NBC News broke the story today. I don't know if you saw it, that the Democrats are already saying, if you bring President Bill Clinton and he has to testify, we're bringing President Trump. What do you say to that?
I think they might say that, you know, but they've already brought me. See, I've been brought. They had me indicted many, many times. Many, many times. They didn't do that to Clinton.
Do you think if
Yes,
the
he
Democrats
is.
win in the midterms, at least one House of Congress, they're going to try to impeach you?
Well, you know, I've done a great job as president. They say I've had the best first year of any president
the
in
kid,
history,
old
and I
bro.
think I have. If you look, I settled 8 wars, biggest tax cuts ever. Right now, we have more under construction with the factories, the car plant. You know, they're all moving back into the country. They were stolen from us over a 40-year period. They're all coming back from Germany, from Canada, from Mexico, from Japan. I think I had the greatest first year that we've
But you
had.
think they may come after you again?
Well, they'll find something. Like I did an interview with you, and because I did the interview, let's impeach him or something.
Anything out there that Americans are going to be surprised
They
about that
should
you're
do
Welcome
doing?
to the
Yeah.
show, Sam.
They shouldn't do it. And that's one of the things. I didn't do it for that reason, but it bothers me that somebody's going after Bill Clinton. See, I like Bill Clinton. I still like Bill
What do you like about him?
Clinton. I liked his behavior toward me. I thought he got me. He understood me. You know, he was the one that said very famously that you don't want to run against Trump when there were 18 people. It was 18 people, including me, total. And he kept telling them, you don't want to run against Trump. Run against anyone. Don't run against Trump. And Hillary sort of laughed at him. He said, Hillary, you know it and I know it. Don't run against Trump.
Yeah.
And they ran against Trump. It didn't work out too well, did it? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. We thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Have a good time.
The full
Man, y'all know what it is, man. We're going to keep it moving. We're going to keep it moving. Like I told y'all, man, it's Trump day today. It's Trump day today. We definitely going to keep it moving. Stay tapped in. Y'all already know Cuz got it together. That's party tonight.
K-File has unearthed photos of Jeffrey Epstein that we've never seen and they shed new light on his relationship with President Trump. The revelations come as Trump is under fire from his own base for his Justice Department's handling of the so-called Epstein files. Trump has tried, of course, to distance himself from Epstein every which way. But one of the photos that K-File found confirms that Epstein actually attended Donald Trump's wedding to Marla Maples. And this is the proof. Again, this has never been published before, so this is a new image. You haven't seen it out there on X or anything like that. What you see is Epstein entering the Plaza Hotel. The wedding date of this is December 20th, 1993, in the center of their friendship, which of course continued. And for comparison, we'll show you on the right a photo of Trump and Marla Maples at the same location.
Trump got really riled up. He started yelling and taking direct shots at Waters, calling him weak and saying he was ruining the network with his coverage. In the thick of Trump's fiery rant, things took an even crazier turn. Fox News abruptly cut the broadcast, claiming technical difficulties. They said there was a signal loss. Well, yeah, it is.
Well, yeah, it is. Trump's wedding to Marla Maples in 1993 was dubbed the wedding of the century by the media at the time. And although we know that Trump and Epstein were friends during this period, this is really the first time that it's actually been reported that Trump invited Epstein to his wedding. This is, we should note, more than a decade before those first allegations of sex trafficking against Epstein. But as you know, Trump's relationship with Epstein has been under the microscope recently. Now, besides that one photo of Epstein entering the reception at the Plaza Hotel, we can also see him in the background of another picture. That's Howard Stern on the far right, along with Robin Leach.
Fox News recently claimed they faced some technical difficulties during an interview with Trump and had to cut to a commercial. The thing is, nobody buys that excuse. Everyone knows the truth. Fox News didn't just cut away because of some technical glitch. They did it because Trump was having a full-on meltdown on live television, and it was quite the spectacle. Fox News chose to stop airing his rants because he was not only embarrassing himself, but also bringing the network down with him, damaging their credibility with that behavior. It's significant because it gives us insight into just how bad things have gotten. Even Trump's go-to media outlet, the network that's had his back for years, finally reached their limit. They couldn't take it anymore and decided they couldn't be associated with what was happening on screen.
Even know that.
What makes this even worse, this isn't the first time Fox News has cut away from Trump. Remember back in 2024 during the Democratic National Convention coverage, they cut away when discussions about Trump's performance and legal issues came up. That was quite some time ago, but still it shows how the relationship has soured. Things have taken an interesting turn in the world of politics recently. Fox News has cut off Trump again, but this time it's a bit different. This isn't just during typical event coverage. It happened during a primetime exclusive interview with Trump. Right in the middle of the interview, where everyone is tuned in, Trump was going off, rallying against the host for simply asking legitimate questions. It's honestly hard to believe he said that out loud. You can see this as Fox News firmly saying they've had enough. They're drawing a line indicating that this kind of behavior isn't going to fly anymore. They seem to be making it clear that if you're going to act like this, you can't be on their network. Now, let's get into what actually went down in that interview, because the details tell quite a story. Jesse Waters was interviewing Trump, aiming for a friendly chat, or at least that was the intention. Waters was navigating.
Welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here to mark your first 100 days in office. It has been an incredibly busy 100 days. You've signed more than 140 executive orders. You've been focused on the border, the economy, foreign policy. What is your biggest goal in the next 100 days?
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of results.
Yes,
We've already
you do.
seen them on the border. We have the best border in the history of our country. It was 99.999, and nobody ever thought that was possible. In fact, Biden, if you remember, said he has to get legislation. And I said, no, you just need a new president. And I guess I was right. We have the best border we've ever had. We're doing great on illegal immigration. We are being hit hard by judges that I think they're trying to take away the power of the presidency. I was elected in a massive landslide and a big vote. We won the swing states. We won the popular vote. We won the district votes by tremendous numbers. We won everything. And one of the primary reasons I was elected was to get people out of our country that were allowed. We have prisoners, we have murderers, we have terrorists in our country, we have people from mental institutions that are seriously insane. They all came in through Biden's open border policy, and I was elected to get them out and to seal the border, but to get them out. And we'll have judges, they're activist judges, they're saying, well, you know, you don't have the right to take out murderers and people that you don't even want to talk about. These are really some really bad criminal people, and they're here illegally. So, you know, they talk about your next question will be due process, but they talk about due process, but do you get due process when you're here illegally?
We're going to talk about all of that. We are going to talk about deportation, but I want to start on the economy, sir, which obviously the biggest issue for voters. We got new numbers today, better than expected job numbers.
Much better.
At the same time, the economy shrank in the first quarter. You've been arguing all week that this is President Biden's economy. Is this now your economy, sir?
Well, I think certain aspects of it are. Costs are. I was able to get down the costs, but even that, it takes a while to get them down, but we got them down good. We lost $5 to $6 billion a day with Biden. $5 to $6 billion. And I've got that down to a great number right now in a record time. You know, we're talking about 100 days. But just think of what that is. $5 billion a day we're losing on trade. And we were very tough with China, as you know. We put 145% tariff on. Nobody's ever heard of such a thing. And we've essentially cut off trade relationships by putting that much of a tariff on. And that's okay. We've gone cold turkey. That means that we're not losing. You know, we lost $1 trillion to China. $1 trillion. That means we're not losing $1 trillion when we go cold turkey because we're not doing business with them right now. And they want to make a deal. They want to make a deal very badly. We'll see how that all turns out, but it's got to be a fair deal. But think of it. We were losing $1 trillion. And that was a big part of the $5 million a day.
And I want to talk about China, but just staying on this idea of the economy. On the eve of your inauguration, the stock market spiked. You called it the Trump effect.
It spiked because I was elected president. Well, it spiked because of anybody else. It spiked because they see what I'm going to do. They know what I'm going to do with the tariffs and everything else. And I think it's actually working out better than we anticipated. Did you see oil prices? Did you see gasoline is now below, in many cases, in many states, below $2 a gallon, $1.98, $1.99, $1.97?
Well, my question, sir, is when the stock market spiked, you said this is the Trump effect. When the numbers weren't so good earlier this week, you said it's the Biden effect. Are you only taking ownership of the good numbers and not the bad numbers?
I think he did a lot of very bad things, and despite some of the bad things, we're overcoming them. But he was bad on the border. He was bad on the economy. We had the worst inflation in the history of our country. Look, Biden gave us the worst inflation in the history of our country. People, it didn't matter what they made because they were losing their shirt because of costs. Now take a look at what happened. Oil is down, gasoline is down, groceries are down, eggs. You were the one that asked me. You asked me about eggs. It was the first week. I didn't even know anything about what were you talking about. Egg prices were so high you couldn't buy eggs. They didn't have any eggs. And they said Easter is going to be a disaster. Well, we had Easter at the White House, and we had thousands of eggs, and they were down 87%.
Yeah, a lot of that, of course, spike was because of bird flu. But when does it become the Trump economy?
Why do you say that?
Well, tell me,
we had the same bird flu as he had.
When does it become the Trump economy?
It partially is right now, and I really mean this. I think the good parts are the Trump economy, and the bad parts are the Biden economy, because he's done a terrible job. He did a terrible job on everything. From his auto pen, which I'm sure he knew nothing about some of the things he was supposedly signing, to immigration. You look at what happened with immigration, how bad it was. Think of it. We have murderers, 11,888 murderers, many of them murdered more than one person. Think of that. And they're in our country. Now, we've gotten a lot of them out, and we know who many of them are, and we're on the hunt. But why would anybody do that? Why would anybody, who could do such a thing where they'd allow hundreds of thousands and even millions of people into our country who are criminals and murderers at the highest level. Who would do this?
But, sir, you acknowledge when you announced your tariffs, for example, the stock market dropped. It's been volatile. It has since gone up.
It is,
do
but
you
now
take
it's going up.
responsibility
Look at
for
today.
that? Yeah. Do you take
Look,
responsibility when it drops?
Ultimately, I take responsibility for everything, but I've only just been here for a little more than 3 months. But the stock market, look at what's happened in the last short period of time. Didn't it have 9 or 10 days in a row or 11 days where it's gone up? And the tariffs have just started kicking in. And we're doing really well. Psychologically, I mean, the fake news was giving me such press on the tariffs. The tariffs are going to make us rich. We're going to be a very rich country.
So let's talk about the tariffs. And I want to ask you about something you said this week. Got a lot of attention. You were at your cabinet meeting. You said, quote, I'm going to quote what you said, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30.
Yeah.
And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. Are you saying that your tariffs will cause some prices to go up?
No, I think the tariffs are going to be great for us because it's going to make us rich.
But you said some dollars are going to cost more. Isn't that an acknowledgement that some prices will go up?
I don't think a beautiful baby girl that's 11 years old needs to have.
What if working from home didn't have to mean selling products or posting online? And here's the kick.
$30. I think they can have $3 or $4. Because what we were doing with China was just unbelievable. We had a trade deficit of hundreds of billions of dollars with China.
When you say they could have $3 instead of $30, are you saying
they don't need
Americans
$30.
could see empty store shelves?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they don't need to have $30. They can have 3. They don't need to have 250 pencils. They can have 5.
But you're basically saying there could be some supply shortages because of the tariffs.
We don't have to waste money on a trade deficit with China for things we don't need, for junk that we don't need.
Well, prices are already going up on some popular items, tires, strollers.
This is such a dishonest interview already. Prices are down on groceries. Prices are down for oil. Prices are down for all energy. Prices are down at tremendous numbers for gasoline. And let me tell you, when you have the big thing, what he did, he spent like a stupid person, which he was, but he spent like a very stupid person. And that was bad for inflation. But what really killed us with inflation was the price of energy. It went up to $3.90, even $4, and in California, $5 and $6, right? Okay. I have it down to $1.98 in many states right now. When you go that much lower on energy, which is ahead of my prediction because I really thought I could get it down into the 250s. We have it down at $1.98 in numerous places. But when you say costs are going up, even mortgage rates are going down.
Well, but let me give you some examples. These are actual examples. So you're saying the prices that are going down, some prices are going up. Tires, strollers, some clothing in the wake of your tariffs.
Excuse me, that's peanuts compared to energy. Energy is 60% of the cost.
But sir, you
campaigned,
you campaigned on a promise to bring prices down on day
Well, I don't know. When you say strollers are going up, what kind of a thing? I'm saying that gasoline is going down. Gasoline is thousands of times more important than a stroller someplace.
But what do you say to Americans who say they voted for you because they want and they need relief right now?
And they're getting it.
Right now? What about those
even mortgage rates?
different items I just
Mortgage rates are going down despite the fact that we have a stubborn Fed.
But you said even dolls could cost a couple bucks more.
Maybe they might, but you don't need to have, as I said, $35. You can have 2, 3, 4 and save a lot of money. We don't need to feed the beast.
I guess you're talking about this transition cost. How long should people expect that transition to last, Mr. President?
I can't tell you that. I can tell you that we're making a lot of money. We're doing great. Again, we're losing more than $5 billion a day. $5 billion a day. You don't talk about that. And right now, we're going to be at a point very soon where we're making money every day. Look.
How soon?
We were losing hundreds of billions of dollars with China. Now we're essentially not doing business with China. Therefore, we're saving hundreds of billions of dollars. Very simple.
You take me to my next question, which is about China. They've been making a number of public statements.
Very positive statements the last 24 hours.
Well, and most recently, they said before talks could happen, the U.S. would need to remove unilateral tariffs. Would you consider dropping the tariffs to get China to the negotiating table?
No. They first of all, you're giving me a statement that was said a week ago. You're not giving the statement that was said today.
I have May 2nd Chinese Commerce Ministry.
Do you know what they said today?
The U.S.
We're
wants to
looking
negotiate.
forward-
It should show sincerity by preparing to take actions in correcting its mistakes and canceling the unilateral tariffs.
They made, first of all, they made numerous statements.
Yes, they've made
you know
numerous
how many people
statements.
speak for
Yes.
China? It's about
Yes,
50
they've
different-
made numerous
I can give
statements,
you a
yes.
statement for any occasion.
Yes, yes.
But they said today they
yeah,
want to
yeah.
talk. Look, China, and I don't like this. I'm not happy about this. China's getting killed right now. They're getting absolutely destroyed. Their factories are closing. Their unemployment is going through the roof. I'm not looking to do that to China. Now, at the same time, I'm not looking to have China make hundreds of billions of dollars and build more ships and more army tanks and more airplanes.
So you're not, just to be very clear, you're not dropping the tariffs against China to get them to the negotiating table. Those
Why would
tariffs
I-
are staying on.
Why would I do
Would
that?
you lower them?
At some point, I'm going to lower them because otherwise you could never do business with them.
Yeah.
And they want to do business
Right.
very much. Look, their economy is really doing badly. Their economy is collapsing.
So small businesses say they are being hurt by the Chinese tariffs, and some could be forced to shut
And
down.
many businesses are being helped.
Are you
Look at the
considering
automobile
tariff
business.
relief for small businesses?
Why do you always mention that, you pick up a couple of little businesses? What about the car business? They're going to make a fortune
little business,
because
you
of the
heard 'em.
tariffs. Do you know that the union, the head of the union, who was no fan of mine, Sean Fain, I guess his name is, right? He didn't endorse me. The Teamsters did. A lot of people did. A lot of unions did.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He couldn't stand me. Now he's saying, wow, what Trump's done for the automobile, I can't believe it. I assume he's going to probably now say, the next thing he can say is, I endorse this guy. He's the greatest I've ever seen. He can't believe it's happened. He said, we've been waiting 40 years for somebody to do what Trump is doing. So why don't you mention the big car industry instead of mentioning somebody that's doing strollers?
Well, I'm just asking about small businesses. Are there any discussions about giving any relief to small businesses?
They're not going to need it.
Okay.
They're going to make so much money.
Are these tariffs?
If you build your product here. Remember, there are no tariffs if you build your product here. It's very easy. It's very simple.
Are these tariffs permanent, Mr. President?
Depends on what you're talking about. One of the things that is going to bring and has brought. So I think we probably have close to $9 trillion of investments coming into this country. If you look at other presidents, there's never been anything like that. This is over a period of 2 months. You got to give me a little break on the 1 month because we're 3 months. But, let's say we had to get started. We had a lot of fake news at the beginning, so we had to beat that down. But so let's say in 2 months. So in just a short period of time, a matter of a couple of months, we have the largest number ever in history invested in the United States and committed. We have between guaranteed spoken for and people that are going to make a decision and announce it pretty soon, close to $9 trillion. We've never had anything close. Now, that's Apple building $500 billion worth of plants. They always built their plants in China. Now they're building their plants over here. That's the biggest computer company, the biggest chip company in the world. The chip company from Taiwan, which is the biggest in the world, is committed for $500 billion. Another one's committed for $300 billion. We have companies, nobody's ever seen anything like it. And let me tell you the other thing, very importantly, automobile companies, plant after plant after plant, Toyota, Honda, Ford, General Motors, Stellantis. I mean, nobody's ever seen anything like it. And I don't like this, but it happens to be. They're stopping work in Mexico and they're stopping work in Canada and they're all moving here.
This is important, though. You're not taking the possibility that these tariffs could be permanent off the table. Some of them.
Oh, I wouldn't do that because if somebody thought they were going to come off the table, why would they build in the United States?
Let me ask you
You
about,
understand that, right?
Yeah, but that's why I'm asking, because there's a lot of, I think, uncertainty for CEOs, for business owners. They want to know,
See, I don't
are
think
these
there is
tariffs
uncertainty.
permanent?
I think there's only uncertainty in the fake news. I don't think there's uncertainty. I mean, I've been very rigid, very strong on it. But I will say I'm flexible. Like with respect to parts made outside of the country, I gave the automobile companies a little extra time. You know, you're talking about 15% and then 10% of the parts put in a car. I gave them a little extra time without penalizing them. And I did that only to help, companies. We're looking to help companies. We want them to thrive and to hire a lot of people, and that's what's happening.
Let me ask you about some of what Wall Street has said. Some people on Wall Street have expressed concerns that the possibility of a recession is increasing. And I want to know what you think about that. Are you comfortable with the country potentially dipping into a recession for a period of time if you are able to achieve your long-term goals?
Well, you say some people on Wall Street say, well, I tell you something else. Some people on Wall Street say that we're going to have the greatest economy in history. Why don't you talk about them? Because some people on Wall Street say this is the greatest thing that ever happened.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at, though. It's the same question.
Yeah, there are many people on Wall Street say this is going to be the greatest windfall ever happened.
And that's my question,
Remember
the
this.
long term.
Yeah.
Is it okay in the short term to have a
Remember
recession?
this. Look, everything's okay. What we are, I said, this is a transition period. I think we're going to do fantastically. One of your colleagues on another fake news station, ABC, said, do you guarantee 100% that a certain person is going to do a fantastic job as, let's say, Secretary of Defense, okay? Because that was the question. I said, what kind of a question is that? Do I guarantee 100%? Nobody guarantees 100%. But I will say this. I think we're going to have an economy the likes of which we've never had before. My 4 years were phenomenal, as you know, the stock market. In fact, even though we had to go through the COVID thing, that horrible situation with COVID, we did numbers, and when I gave it over, when I handed it over, the election was rigged, and because of that, we have a lot of problems, by the way. But when I handed it over, what happened? The market was higher than it was previous to COVID coming in. Yeah. Nobody could believe it. The stock market I'm talking about.
I don't want to look back, but you did take your case to court about that.
Back.
You took your case to court about your allegations against the election. Let me ask you,
There's no question about it. The election was rigged. The facts are in, and it's still being litigated. Let's go.
You did take your case to court more than 60 times and didn't win those cases.
I won a lot of court cases.
Just to button that up, though, sir. Just to button that up.
What are you talking about?
How
the election
worried are you?
Are we talking about the election
Let's talk about here and now. Let's talk about
the
here and now.
election of 2020?
Let's talk about here and now. Are you worried about a recession?
No.
Okay.
No. I think we're going to have the greatest economic.
I mean, are you worried it could happen? Do you think it could happen?
Anything can happen. But I think we're going to have the greatest economy in the history of our country. I think we're going to have the greatest economic boom in history.
Let me ask you about this call to Amazon founder Jeff Bezos this week in response to a report that Amazon was going to display tariff costs next to product prices. Are you going to punish CEOs who increase their prices because of tariffs?
I think what is a great misnomer is the word tariff in many cases. It's not, to me, I don't view it as a tax. I view it as an incentive for people to come into the United States and build plants, factories, offices, a lot of things. I think it's an incentive, but the thing that's not known is if you look back and see, oftentimes like China or Vietnam or other countries, not just China, because China's an abuser, but there are other abusers. Many of them are friends, the so-called, I say friend and foe, and friend is oftentimes worse than foe. But what people don't understand is, and this is a lot, the country eats the tariff, the company eats the tariff, and it's not passed along at all.
Well, some CEOs are saying they're going to have to pass it on. So how do you deal with those CEOs?
But the company,
how do you deal with those CEOs?
China is eating the tariffs right now.
What do you say to those CEOs who are saying, we might have to pass this on to the consumer?
Well, they say that because maybe it's to their advantage to say it.
Will you punish them?
No, because you know what? I want them to build plants in the United States. That way they don't have any tariffs. See, tariffs will, and not only will, look at what's happened. In 2 months, we're close to $9 trillion of investment. We've never been anywhere near that.
What did you say to Jeff Bezos?
He's just a very nice guy. We have a relationship. I asked him about it. He said, well, I don't want to do that. And he took it off immediately.
So he changed course. And will you take that same tactic with other CEOs if you
I'll
feel
always
like
call people if I disagree with them. If I think that somebody's doing something that's incorrect, wrong, or maybe hurtful to the country, I'll call. Absolutely. Wouldn't you want me to call? Biden wouldn't call because he didn't know what was happening, but I do.
Takes me to my next question. Today's strong jobs report likely means, not clear, but likely means the Fed is less likely to lower interest rates.
Well, he should lower them. And
hey guys, can you believe that Amazon made billions of dollars and only paid?
At some point he will. He'd rather not because he's not a fan of mine. He just doesn't like me because I think he's a total stiff. And, it's just one of those things. He should lower them. And I wish the people that are on that board would get him to lower because we are at a perfect time. It's already late, but he should lower interest rates.
Do you rule out removing Fed Chair Jerome Powell?
I'm not, I get to change him very quickly anyway. It's in a very short period of time.
In 2026. You're not going to remove, you don't have plans to remove him before 2026 when his time's up?
That was a total, why would I do that? I get to replace the person in another short period of time.
Okay. This week, you reshuffled your national security team.
Yeah.
You moved National Security Advisor Mike Waltz to UN ambassador. Just to remind our viewers, Waltz, of course, started that unsecured text chain where sensitive information was shared. Mr. President, was that move a punishment?
No, I just think he'll do a nice job in the new position. Marco's doing an outstanding job. No, Marco won't keep, Marco's very busy doing other things, so he's not going to keep it long term. We're going to put somebody else in. But I think Mike, who's, as you know, he's a fine guy, and I think he'll do a very good job. Knows the countries, knows leadership. And I think he'll do a very good job at the United Nations. And in the meantime, Marco's really doing something special. And it's going to work out very well.
We're hearing some potential names. Stephen Miller's name, one of your longtime, most loyal aides. His name has been talked about as a potential national security advisor. Is he someone you're looking at?
Well, I'd love to have Stephen there, but that would be a downgrade. Stephen is much higher in the totem pole than that, in my opinion.
Can you tell us who the front runner is right now?
I have a lot of people that want it. I will tell you, I have everybody calling. Everybody wants to be a part of this administration. So at some point we'll, probably do that. There's a theory, Henry Kissinger did both. There's a theory that you don't need two people, but I think I have some really great people that could do a good job.
So Secretary Rubio could continue to have both jobs indefinitely?
He could, yeah, he could. But I think he even would like to probably see, because it is a little bit different. But in the meantime, he'll handle it. And I think Mike, if that goes forward, he still has to get approved. But I think Mike will do a very good job at the United Nations.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, obviously also on that unsecured text chain. He was sharing sensitive information. Are you looking for a new Secretary of Defense? Mr.
No,
President?
not even a little bit. No. Pete's going to be great.
His job is safe right now?
We're doing a fantastic job against the Houthis, who like blowing ships up and watching them sink in the ocean. We're hitting them very hard. No, he's doing a very good job.
His job is safe right now?
Totally safe.
Okay. Let's talk about the border. Okay. Let's talk about deportations. Border crossings are at their lowest level ever recorded. Is the border?
Is that good?
Is the border now secure?
Yeah, it's really secure.
It's absolutely
isn't that good?
secure.
When you say that, doesn't that just sound good? After being abused for years by an incompetent president that allowed people to pour through an open border, criminals from all over the world, murderers and insane people from mental institutions and insane asylums, isn't it a beautiful thing when you say it's the most secure it's ever been in the history of our country? Isn't that a nice statement?
Well, I'm curious to know what it means. You declared a national emergency on the southern border. The order is still in place.
By the way,
even
it
though
means
you're saying
exactly
the
what you
secure.
said. It means we have the most secure border we've ever had.
Well, and I guess the question becomes, when will you know that the emergency is over? Are you planning to lift it at some point? Is it necessary? Because obviously the military is involved. Will you lift that emergency?
Well, the biggest emergency is the courts aren't allowing us to take really
We're going to
bad
talk
people
about
out.
that, but talk to me first about this.
That's to me the emergency.
Talk to me first about this
The border
emergency.
now is not the emergency. The border is it's all part of the same thing, though. The big emergency right now is that we have thousands of people that we want to take out, and we have some judges that want everybody to go to
Some
court.
of them you appointed, sir, including
That's all right.
3 on the
mean,
Supreme Court.
They change. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how that happens, but they do change.
Just to button this up, though, are you planning to lift that emergency order anytime soon? Now that the border's secure?
We have an
You say the
emergency. We
border's
have a
secure.
massive emergency. Overall, it's an overall emergency on immigration. And if the courts don't allow us to take people out, if we had to have a court case, think of it, every single person, we have millions of people. We're going to have millions of court cases. Figure 2 weeks a court case, it would be 300 years.
So let's talk about this, because obviously you've had a back and forth with the Supreme Court. In a 9-0 decision, the Supreme Court directed your administration to facilitate the return. You've talked about this in the past, of Kilmar Abrego Garcia from a prison in El Salvador, whose deportation your administration called an administrative error. You said in a recent interview you could bring him back, but you won't. Are you defying the Supreme Court, sir?
No, I'm relying on the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, who's very capable, doing a great job, because I'm not involved in the legality or the illegality. I have lawyers to do that, and that's why I have a great DOJ. We have a great one. We had a very corrupt one before. Now we have a great one. And they're not viewing the decision the way you said it. They don't view it that way at all. They think it's a totally different decision.
Well, you say you have the power to bring him back, though. Your attorney general says, quote, that's up to El Salvador. Just to put a fine point on this, do you have the power to bring Abrego Garcia back as the Supreme Court?
Well, I have
ordered?
the power to ask for him to come back if I'm instructed by the attorney general that it's legal to do so. But the decision as to whether or not he should come back will be the head of El Salvador. He's a very capable man.
Well, you know, and your attorney general has said the issue is with that word facilitate. Will you seek clarification from the Supreme Court? Do you need to go back to the Supreme Court?
We may do that. I was asking about that. We may do that. There are some people that say, bring him back, put him in trial, and you get him out right away, because you see what happened just this morning. Tapes came out, horrible tapes from his wife. You don't get much worse than that. You don't get, I mean, he seems certainly like a very dangerous, very bad person, but even the wife who...
Not sure if you saw the news, but Fox News is claiming President Trump is declining in the polls. President Trump responded and says Fox News
was so afraid. She was afraid to talk. And all of a sudden, tapes got released this morning that were devastating to him.
And this is the point, sir, about due process. The Constitution says every person, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Why not push to have him come back, present all of that evidence in court, let a judge decide?
Well, I'll leave that to the lawyers, and I'll leave that to the Attorney General of the United States,
But
because
do you
they're
agree?
in it. You have to understand, I'm dealing with Russia and Ukraine. I'm dealing
And we're
with
going to talk
China.
about that.
I'm dealing with Iran. I'm dealing with Rwanda and Congo, who are fighting, and we're trying to get that one straightened out, and I think we have done that. Did a great job. Nobody even talks about it, but I think we're close to doing that. They're looking like they're going to maybe make a peace deal, which would be good. But I'm dealing with a lot of different things. I don't know much about this gentleman other than I hear he's an absolute not good person. And I have very capable legal people, John Sauer, as you know, and all top people. And I have to rely on that to interpret whatever's said by the Supreme Court. Now, with that being said, I have tremendous respect for the Supreme Court. Look, 3 of the people are people I appointed.
Right.
And I have great respect for the Supreme Court. And I would expect that the Attorney General will be doing the right thing.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know.
as
It seems it might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials. We have thousands of people that are some murderers and some drug dealers and some of the worst people on earth. Some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
Is anyone in your administration right now in contact with El Salvador about returning Abrego Garcia to the United States?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the Attorney General that question.
Okay. At least 2 Americans have been mistakenly detained and released by your administration, immigration authorities. Mr. President, should lawful residents of this country start carrying paperwork with them when they leave their homes?
I don't think that'll be necessary, but what you're not saying is that many people have been killed, maimed, badly hurt by illegal immigrants that came over that are from prisons and from jails and from mental institutions, and they're hurting our people. And if we don't get them out, we're not going to have a country for long. We need honest, we need honest media, and we need walls. We need to have borders. And by the way, I built a lot of walls, and if we didn't do that, we wouldn't be able to have those. You know, we would not be able to have the kind of numbers if I wasn't successful in building hundreds of miles of wall.
Very quickly, sir, the last time you and I spoke in December, you said that you would consider working on getting Dreamers legal status. Dreamers, of course, those who were brought here illegally as children. Where do those efforts stand? Is that a priority for you?
Well, it's not a priority for the Democrats because every time we talk about it, they don't want to talk about it because I guess they like it as a political issue, but they're not good at political issues because they still want to have men playing women's sports.
Well, Republicans do control Congress right now, Mr. President.
But the
Are you
Democrats
going
don't.
to make Dreamers a priority?
Well, you'd need for that, you would need to have support from Democrats, and we have no support from the Democrats.
Have you had any discussions about Dreamers?
Yeah, we've had discussions. We would do something. I'd love to put in beautiful immigration for everybody, but the Democrats don't want to approve anything. All they want to do is knock out a tax bill. We're trying to get approved right now, the biggest tax cut in the history of our country. And if it doesn't get approved, it's a 68% tax increase, and that's what the Democrats want. They want a 68% tax increase. It's rather incredible.
And I do want to talk to you about your legislation, but let's talk about DOJ very quickly. DOJ has fired and then rehired thousands of federal workers, including FAA employees in charge of aviation safety, specialists working on nuclear weapon safety. What do you say to those who believe Elon Musk's chainsaw approach has jeopardized the safety and security of Americans?
Well, he found $160 billion worth of fraud, waste, and abuse. I mean, I think he's done an amazing job. I think his people have done an incredible job. They're brilliant people. They know the computer. I actually asked him, what's their big trait? He said they're unbelievable at computers. In other words, you can't fake them out because these people were, in many cases, crooks. But it was fraud, waste, and abuse. They found, your question should be asked a different way. Were certain things found? Yes. How much? $160 billion. Think of what $160 billion is. He found $160.
He said he'd find $2 trillion.
Damn.
Well, we're not finished yet.
After my heart attack, I had a choice: drain my 401k or lose the house. Turns out there was a third option I didn't know existed. After my heart attack,
we're not finished
yet. Do you
yet.
think the work continues even though he's leaving?
He said he's leaving behind some very brilliant people. They were on television last night. They're super high IQ people. I like high IQ people. The Democrats don't have many of them.
Let me ask you about some news that broke. You are threatening to rescind Harvard's tax-exempt status.
Yeah.
And yet directing the IRS to investigate and rescind a university's tax-exempt status is contrary to what's in the federal law. The law says you can't do this. Do you think you're following the law?
Well, I tell you, I'm going to just follow what the lawyers say. They say that we're allowed to do that, and I'm all for it. But everything I say is subject to the laws being 100% adhered to.
Are you willing to take this to court if it becomes a court fight? You're going to take it that far?
We've won a lot of cases.
All right, let's talk about some of the other actions you've taken over the past 100 days. Last month, you directed your Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to review 2 people who you perceived to be your political adversaries. And yet you told me in December that you would not direct the Justice Department to investigate your political foes. What changed?
Well, no, I just look at people, and I'm not directing anybody. They looked at these 2 people. They might have known it or they might have heard it from 2 years ago. One person said, he knew me so well. He was, I think, on CNN or MSDNC, but they're both failing networks. You're happy to know, even though one of them, I guess, is related to you in one form or another, although they're trying to cut him loose as fast as possible. But it was well known that this one person, it was almost like he was my brother. I don't even know who he is. Maybe he was there. Maybe he was in the Oval Office a few times as a surrogate for, somebody in some form of government, along with 25 other people that sat in the back of the room or stood in the back of a room. I have no idea who this guy is. And he's out there. And then he did a book called Anonymous. I think that's really subversion. I think it's spying. It's something really bad.
But you passed an executive order calling for your attorney general to investigate that
for a long time. And the other one said that the election was so wonderful. It was it turned out it wasn't a wonderful election. It was a corrupt election.
Well, let me ask it this way, sir, because when we talked in December, I asked you, what is your message to people who didn't vote for you? Let me remind you of what you said. You said, I love you, and we're going to all work together. How does pursuing your political foes help to unify the country?
Did I really say I love you?
You really did. That's a direct quote.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right, but I'd like to see
I promise I'll show it to you. I'll show you the tape.
Look.
How does that help to unify
I want to
the
treat
country?
people fairly, whether they voted for me or not. I want to have a unified country. It's very hard because the media is so fake, including, like even the way you ask questions. Every question is asked in a negative vein. There's a toy company that took a toddler's, whatever. But you don't talk about the fact that gasoline is down at numbers that nobody believes possible. You know why they're down, by the way? Drill, baby, drill. We're drilling like crazy right now.
We try to make sure every question is fair, Mr. President.
Look, every question you ask says a very negative slant.
No, but look, I'm just curious.
I'm fine for responding to you. I don't think you're very difficult at all to respond to be honest with you. But you know what? You should ask some positive things like, sir, it's amazing what you've done with gasoline. Because you know what? Gasoline's big business. A stroller is not big business.
To this question, Mr. President, you said you wanted to unify the country. Does going after political foes undercut that goal?
No, not at all. No, we want honest people.
Okay.
I think you have to do that. We want honest people in this country.
Let me ask you big picture. People who have lived in countries like the Philippines, Hungary, Russia, they look at some of your actions going after civil service, going after universities, law firms, the media. They say it's out of an authoritarian playbook. What do you say to those who believe you are taking the country down an authoritarian path?
Well, there you go again. Why don't you ask it a different way? Many people wanted to come into our country. Many people love Trump. I won the election. They didn't win the election. I got a lot more votes than they did. I won the popular vote. I won all 7 swing states by a lot. A lot of people were surprised. I said, I think you could win 4, maybe 5. No, I won all 7, and I won by a lot. And I won, actually. I think there was a lot of hanky-panky going on, but it was too big to rig. That's the good news. It's too big to rig. But let me just say, so when you make these statements about, people say this, well, they had their chance at the election and they lost big. So you should ask the question differently. You should say, what about the people that want to be in this country? What about the people that love this country?
But what do you say? I'm asking it on behalf of those people to give you a chance to respond to them. What do you say to those people, sir?
Those people are going to be very happy. They're going to have to see some results. And I think we had a great 100 days. There are a lot of people that say it was unprecedented. It was an absolutely unprecedented 100 days. And I hope that they're going to be right.
Do you see dissent as an essential part of democracy?
It's a part of democracy. It is. You're
is
always
it an
going to have
important
dissent.
part of democracy?
Yeah, you're always going to have, Kristen, you're always going to have dissent. There's nothing you're going to do about that. Am I going to get 100% unified? It would be a strange place. I can't even imagine it where 100%. Look, you have people that are good people. They're very smart people. And they honestly believe we should have open borders and the entire world should be allowed to pour into our country. I think it's a 95-5 issue, but they believe it. They're not even bad people. Some of them are bad. You have people that honestly believe that men should be allowed to play in women's sports. Some of these people I don't know any. I haven't been able to find any, but they exist. They say it's an 80-20 issue. I don't believe that. I think it's a 97-3 issue.
Do you think people should have the right to criticize you without fear of reprisal?
Absolutely, yeah, I do. That I do.
And how do you square
And I think that happens.
How do you square that with the fact that you have passed these executive orders asking the Attorney General to look into some of the people who've criticized you, who've been harshest against you?
I have been investigated more than any person in the history of the United States of America. I've been investigated more than the late, great, as I say at my rallies, Alphonse Capone. Alphonse Capone was a nasty man. He was the highest level gangster. And I have been investigated more than Al Capone, more than anybody. These people are evil people, and I won. And I'll tell you what, all I want to happen is for the Department of Justice and the FBI. Pam is great and Cash is great. I think they're two great people, but they're their own people. They want to do a fantastic job. And all I want to do and all I want to ask for is that they be allowed to do their job. I'm not telling them to do anything, and I believe I have the right to do it. I'm, in theory, the top law enforcement officer as the president. We went over this once before, and it turned out I was right. But I'm not looking to use that. We have two great people, and we have many, many incredible people under them, and I just want them to do their job and do it well.
Let me ask you about something I don't think you've been asked much about, which is you've branded your own cryptocurrency. The coin's values actually surged recently after you announced that top holders would be invited to have dinner.
I don't even know that. What did it surge to?
What did it surge to?
Yeah, what's it worth? You might as well tell me, because I have no idea.
Well, it surged. It surged. I will find it. Hold on one second. 5.2 or 58%. So 58%.
To what number?
That's not bad. 14.32.
What? Billion?
No, dollars per cryptocurrency.
$billion?
No.
What's the number? I mean, what is the amount?
The meme coin's value hit a peak of $75.35 on January 19th.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything.
And that's before your inauguration, and then it surged.
Look, I'm in favor of crypto.
Let me just ask you, what do you say to those who argue that when they hear that, they worry you're profiting from the presidency?
I'm not profiting from anything. All I'm doing is, I started this long before the election. I want crypto. I think crypto is important because if we don't do it, China's going to. And it's new. It's very popular. It's very hot. If you look at the market, when the market went down, that stayed much stronger than other aspects of the market. But I want crypto because a lot of people, millions of people want it. I don't know if you know that Biden went after it violently, and then before the election, he changed his tune entirely. His head of the SEC, everybody changed their tune. You know why? Because there were hundreds of millions of people that are participating in crypto, and they wanted to get their votes.
So you're not profiting off of the cryptocurrency?
I haven't even looked.
Has your family?
I'll tell you what. Look, if I own stock in something and I do a good job, and the stock market goes up, I guess I'm profiting. But who really profits is somebody like Nancy Pelosi, who uses inside information. She worked for $175,000 a year, and that's at the high end, and she's worth $150, $200 million.
Damn.
Okay? You ought to look at Nancy Pelosi, and you ought to look at some of these politicians that are stone cold crooks. I was very wealthy when I came in. Being president, I probably cost me money if you really look. In fact, I do something that no other president has done. They think maybe George Washington has done. I contribute my entire salary to the government, back to the government.
So will you contribute anything you earn from crypto back to the government? If that happens?
I never thought of that. I mean, should I contribute all of my real estate that I've owned for many years if it goes up a little bit because I'm president and doing a good job? I don't think so.
Okay.
But I've done something that surprisingly, they say nobody else has done, no other president has done. And it's a substantial salary. It's like $500,000 a year or $550,000 a year, 4 years, a couple of $1 million. I gave it to the government last time? I never got a story saying I gave it. Nobody cared if I gave it. I guarantee if I didn't give it, there'd be a big story. But no other president, they say, with the possible exception of George Washington, and they haven't been able to find those records. And we've had wealthy presidents before, but no other president has contributed the salary. And they told me before this that you will probably be asking me whether or not I'm going to contribute my salary again, but you haven't asked that.
Are you going to?
Yes.
You are. Okay.
Yes. I am.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate we just made news there. Let's talk about foreign policy, sir. You just signed a minerals deal with Ukraine. It's a sign, it seems, that the United States is investing in
I
Ukraine.
hope to say, I'd like to not say which one we're closer to, but we did do a deal for the American people that was good. We were able to get rare earth. You know, the Europeans are getting paid back. They have a loan. We didn't. Biden just gave them $350 billion. He has no idea where the money is, what happened. And at least we'll, in one form or another, get our, I don't feel so foolish. And remember this is Biden's war. This was a war that was never going to happen if I were president. This is a horrible, horrible war. And I get to see shots of soldiers through, satellite that are just so terrible. 5,000 soldiers are being, look, 5,000 soldiers a week on average are dying. They're not American soldiers, but I want to solve the problem. They're Russian soldiers and they're Ukrainian soldiers. And if I can save 5,000 souls, I just love doing it.
How long do you give both countries before you're going to walk away?
Well, there'll be a time when I will say, okay, keep going, keep being stupid.
When
and
does
keep
that
fighting.
come? Are you close to it?
Sometimes I get close to it and then positive things happen. Okay? So I hope it gets done.
Your close ally, Senator Lindsey Graham, has a sanctions bill against Russia. If you get to that point, Mr. President, where you're prepared to walk away, will you sign that sanctions bill?
Well, it depends on whether or not Russia is behaving toward coming to a peace. We want a peace deal. We want Russia and Ukraine to agree to a deal. We think we're fairly close, and we're going to save a lot of people from being killed. We save a lot of money, too, because we're spending money like, Europe is spending a third of the money that we're spending. And it's more important for Europe than it is for us. Biden had no control. He just sent money over there willy-nilly. Nobody had any idea what was happening, why they were doing it, why they were sending it. And it was massive amounts of money.
So you think you're close to a deal? What will Russia have to give up? Because Ukraine, there's been discussions they will have to give up some of the land.
Russia will have to give up all of Ukraine. Because that's what they want.
All of Ukraine, meaning they wouldn't keep any of the land that they've claimed?
Russia would have to give up all of Ukraine. Because what Russia wants is all of Ukraine. And if I didn't get involved, they would be fighting right now for all of Ukraine. Russia doesn't want the strip that they have now. Russia wants all of Ukraine. And if it weren't me, they would keep going. Do you know that the European Union leaders have asked me to call Putin so many times because he doesn't return their phone call?
You posted on social media he might be tapping you along.
Might be.
Did you misread
But you might
him?
be tapping me along, too, when you tell me how nice an interview this is going to be. So, I'm used to being tapped along.
Did you in any way misread Vladimir Putin?
This is how we grew our podcast to over 10,000 listeners without spending hours editing each week. First, look up Riverside, then create a free account.
Did I what?
Misread him, now that you're saying that.
I'll tell you about that in a month from now or 2 weeks from now. I have no idea. I can tell you this. His ambition was stopped to a large extent when he saw that it was me that was now leading the charge, because he wasn't dealing with anybody in Europe. He wasn't calling him back. Do you know that I asked him, I said, did Biden ever call you in 3 years? Did Biden ever call? He said he never called. Do you know Biden didn't call him one time? And all these thousands of soldiers, hundreds, millions of soldiers are dying, and people, not only soldiers, people dying in the cities and the towns, and the whole heritage of that country is being blown apart. I mean, the country's heritage is being blown apart. You know the steeples, those beautiful spires that you see, the most beautiful in the world?
Yeah.
Almost 95% of them are laying in smithereens, all broken up and so sad, laying all over the ground because they were shot. It's really a bad situation.
bad, Mo.
And he didn't get one phone call from Biden. The war would have never started. And by the way, for 4 years, it didn't start. I was there for 4 years. It was the apple of his eye. This was the apple of Putin's eye. There was no chance he would have gone in.
What's the red line for you? At what point do you say, that's it, we're walking away?
Well, you'll know. I mean, there'll be a time when I may say that. And if I
you're
do,
not there.
there may be something I can't, maybe it's not possible to do. There's tremendous hatred, just so you understand. Kristen, we're talking tremendous hatred between these two men and between, you know, some of the soldiers, frankly, between the generals. They've been fighting hard for 3 years. I think we have a very good chance of doing it.
Very quickly, if you do walk away, would that mean that you would pull military and intelligence?
I don't want to say that now. It's too early to say that. I don't want to get into that argument.
Let's move on to Canada. You have long talked about making Canada the 51st state. There's obviously a new Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, who you spoke to after his victory. He says that you didn't talk to him in that call about making Canada a 51st state.
No, he called me. He was very nice, and I congratulated him. He had a victory. It's a very close victory. It's, you know, there's no majority or anything, so that's going to make things a little bit difficult, I think, for him to run. But he nevertheless had a victory, and he's a very nice man, I think.
Do you plan to talk to him about making Canada a 51st state?
He wants to come and see me. He's going to come this week or next week.
So will you talk to him about making Canada a 51st state, annexing Canada?
I'll always talk about that. You know why? We subsidize Canada to the tune of $200 billion a year. We don't need their cars. In fact, we don't want their cars. We don't need their energy. We don't even want their energy. We have more than they do. We don't want their lumber. We have great lumber. All I have to do is free it up from the environmental lunatics. We don't need anything that they have. We're giving them. I asked Mr. Trudeau, who I call Governor Trudeau, I said, you know, not Prime Minister, Governor. I said, Governor Trudeau, could I ask you one question? Why are we giving you $200 billion? Why are we subsidizing Canada? If Canada was a state, it wouldn't cost us. It would be great. It would be such a great, it would be a cherished state. And if you look at our map, if you look at the geography, I'm a real estate guy at heart. When I look down at that, without that artificial line that was drawn with a ruler many years ago, it was just an artificial line, goes straight across. You don't even realize what a beautiful country it would be. It would be great. But I don't think the American public wants me to pay $200 billion a year to subsidize Canada. Again, remember this.
Yeah.
We don't need their cars. We don't need their lumber. We don't need their energy. We don't need anything. We do very little business with Canada. They do all of their business practically with us.
You and I.
They need us. We don't need them.
You and I talked, and I asked you if you would rule out military force to take Greenland, and you said no, you don't rule out anything. Would you rule out military force to take Canada?
Well, I think we're not going to ever get to that point. It could happen. Something could happen with Greenland. I'll be honest. We need that for national and international security.
But not
I
with
think
Canada?
It's highly unlikely. I don't see it with Canada. I just don't see it. I have to be honest with you.
Okay, but you don't rule it out for Greenland.
And by the way, Canada, they spend less money on military than practically any nation in the world. They pay NATO less than any nation. They think we're subsidized. They think we are going to protect them. And really, we are. But the truth is, they don't carry their full share, and it's unfair to the United States and our taxpayers.
But you are not ruling out military force to take Greenland.
I don't rule it out. I don't say I'm going to do it, but I don't rule out anything. No, not there. We need that. We need Greenland very badly. Greenland is a very small amount of people, which we'll take care of and we'll cherish them and all of that. But we need that for international security. Do you know, we have Russian boats and we have Chinese boats, gunships all over the place, aircraft carriers, gunships, going up and down the coast of Greenland. We need that to be protected. Internationally, we need it.
So you are willing to send U.S. troops.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
To claim a sovereign territory?
I didn't say that. You asked me a question. Would you? Is there a circumstance? It could happen. I doubt it will, but it certainly could happen with respect to Greenland.
Okay, let me ask you about Iran. Your administration has had conversations with Iran. Is the goal of these talks limiting Iran's nuclear program or total dismantlement?
Total dismantlement.
That's all you'll accept?
That's all I'd accept. Now, there's a new theory going out there that Iran would be allowed to have civilian, meaning to make electricity. But I say, they have so much oil, what do they need it for? But, I've seen it with other states where they're looking to do something and they have a lot of oil. Iran has tremendous energy. I put sanctions, if you know that. I put pretty strong sanctions on 2 days ago on the oil. The sad part is that if Biden didn't get involved, if we had a competent president, you would have never had the attack on Israel. October 7th would have never taken place. Hamas would have had no money because Iran was broke. And now in a period of 4 years during the Biden administration, they became very rich. They have over $300 billion cash in the bank. And they had no money. They were ready to make a deal with me. And it's very sad. Because of this rigged election, they didn't do it. Just another thing you can mark down to a bad election.
It's interesting what you're saying, though, because Secretary Rubio has said that he would accept, or the idea is there is an openness to accepting peaceful civil nuclear program.
Well, that's what people, I didn't say anything contradictory. I said that people are talking about that. And this is something that's really pretty new in the dialogue. And I'd have to be, my inclination is to say, what do you need that for? You have a lot of oil.
So you want total dismantlement, bottom line.
I think that I would be open to hearing it. Civilian energy, it's called. But, civilian energy often leads to military wars. And we don't want to have them have a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple deal. I want Iran to be really successful, really great, really fantastic. The only thing they can't have is a nuclear weapon. If they want to be successful, that's okay. I want them to be so successful. And the Iranian people are incredible. I just don't want them to have a nuclear weapon because the world will be destroyed.
Just to recap, we're talking about your desire to claim Canada, Greenland. What do you say to people?
You forgot the Panama Canal.
Panama Canal. What do you say to people who say they voted for you because they wanted you to end foreign conflicts, not start new?
I don't see that as conflict. I think that's good for our country, those things. Look, the Panama Canal was taken over by China effectively. Now China seems to have left. But the Panama Canal, think of this deal. We built the most expensive object we've ever built in the history of our country. That was Mount McKinley. They just took away, I just gave them back the name. But McKinley made the money. Teddy Roosevelt spent the money. McKinley gets very little credit, but he made, how he made the money? Through tariffs. He was the big tariff president. Okay, but forget that. We built the Panama Canal. It was the most expensive thing. It would be the equivalent, like almost $2 trillion today. We've never spent it. And it was very successful. And Jimmy Carter gave it away for $1.
Panama insists Panama says they do control the canal, but we have a couple more questions left tonight.
Panama said what?
Little wrap.
Panama said what?
Panama says they still control it. I know you're saying China. Panama says they still control it.
If you would have gone there about 5.2 months ago, every single sign on the Panama Canal, with the exception of about 15% of them, was in Chinese.
Let me ask you, because we're nearing the end, just a couple more questions here.
I'm not complaining. You keep saying to me like I'm rushing.
No, you're not, and I really appreciate it.
I don't want to rush you. I don't want to make you nervous.
Thank you. The Trump Organization is selling hats that say Trump 2028.
Yeah.
Are you seriously considering a third term, Mr. President, even though it's prohibited by the Constitution, or is this about staying politically viable?
I will say this. So many people want me to do it. I have never had requests so strong as that. But it's something that, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do. I don't know if that's constitutional that they're not allowing you to do it or anything else, but there are many people selling the 2028 hat. But this is not something I'm looking to do. I'm looking to have 4 great years and turn it over to somebody, ideally a great Republican to carry it forward. But I think we're going to have 4 years, and I think 4 years is plenty of time to do something really spectacular.
The Constitution does prohibit it. Some of your allies are pretty serious about this, though, Mr. President. I've spoken to them. They say they are coming up with potential ways.
Well,
obviously, the biggest one will be a constitutional amendment.
That's because they like the job I'm doing, and it's a compliment. It's really a great compliment.
Has anyone approached you, though, with an actual plan, a way to actually start the process?
Well, there are
of a
ways of doing it.
constitutional amendment?
There are ways of doing it, and you know the same thing. And if you look at the vice presidential thing, and you hear different concepts and different other people say you can have a write-in vote. There's lots of different things. With all of that being said, I want to be a great president. I will have served. Hopefully, everything will go well. I feel very good. I just did a physical. I took, unlike all other presidents, I took cognitive tests and I aced it. I got 100% correct. And one doctor said, there were numerous doctors watching. And he said, I've never seen that before. Biden didn't take a cognitive. He couldn't have gotten the first question right. But I came out great with the physical, both physically and mentally. And I just want to serve, do a great job. I'll be an 8-year president. I'll be a 2-term president. I always thought that was very important, to be honest with you. You know, if you look at President Polk, he was a 1-termer and he did some great things, actually. A pretty good president. And I'm not saying you can't do that, but there's something about being a 2-term president that was very important to me.
And just to put a button on it, has anyone in an official capacity presented you with, sir, here are some ideas by which you could actually get a constitutional amendment?
Well, in a capacity of being a big supporter of many people have said different things, but I'm not looking at that.
You haven't had official meetings about it?
No. And just so you said, 4 years is a long time. I have almost 4 years. You know, all of these things that we've done more than any president, and even you might admit that. Nobody's done the extent of the things that we've done. Nobody's done this in essentially a little bit more than 3 months. As they say, 100 days. I'm looking to do a great job as president and set the country on the right track, because if I didn't win, this country would have failed. We would have been a failed nation.
You have built a political movement that has transformed the Republican Party. It's transformed the country, quite frankly.
Political movement in history, MAGA. Make America great again.
When you look to the future, Mr. President, do you think the MAGA movement can survive without you as its leader?
Yes, I do.
What gives you
I think it's so strong, and I think we have tremendous people. I think we have a tremendous group of people. We talked about a number of them. You look at Marco, you look at J.D. Vance, who's fantastic. You look at, I could name 10, 15, 20 people right now just sitting here. No, I think we have a tremendous party. And you know what I can't name? I can't name one Democrat. I mean, I look at the Democrats, they're in total disarray. They have a new person named Crockett. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. And they said, she's the future of the party. I said, you have to be kidding. I don't know what they're going to do. And I really believe in a two-party system. Because it's good to be challenged. It's really good to have a two-party. You know, it's good. Being challenged is okay. It keeps you sharp. I don't know what they're going to do. They have nobody. Bernie's 87 years old or something. And, you know, Biden is the worst thing that ever happened to old people, because he was grossly incompetent. And I think maybe for artificial reasons. You know, he had operations and things. So maybe that's an artificial. But I know people that are unbelievably sharp, and they're older than 87. But I watch Bernie Sanders. He's a nut job, but he's still sharp. He's sharp as he's the same guy he was. He hasn't gone down. But Biden is really, he's the worst thing to happen to old people.
I know that you are only 100 days in, but as we sit here today, who do you see as your successor, Mr. President?
Well, it's far too early to say that, but you know, I do have a vice president, and typically it would be, and JD's doing a fantastic job.
He would be at the top of the list?
It could very well be. I don't want to get involved in that. I think he's a fantastic, brilliant guy. Marco is great. There's a lot of them that are great. I also see tremendous unity, but certainly you would say that somebody's the VP. If that person is outstanding, I guess that person would have an advantage. But I think the other people would all stay in unbelievably high positions. But, you know, it could be that he'd be challenged by somebody. We have a lot of good people in this party.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or...
Man, thank y'all for tapping in. Let's move on. Y'all know I got them lined up for y'all, man. Y'all already know I got them lined up for y'all, man. Y'all already know.
Issue a number of subpoenas against Democratic officials there, Governor Tim Walz, the mayor of Minneapolis, and the Attorney General Keith Ellison.
So that's a big problem. And then you have the agitators, anarchists. You know, I watched sort of everything. I see it all. And I see people screaming, shame, shame. You know, this is not people that are like living in Minnesota. These are professional, paid people. They're like actors. I mean, I watched the guy last night in the church. He was, and not just Don Lemon. Don Lemon's a loser. But I watched the guy last night in the church. This guy's a professional guy, and he actually admits to it. He gets paid a lot of money to go and cause trouble. And you see that. What they don't see is that ICE gets rid of murderers, drug dealers, Tren de Aragua, I mean, the worst gang in the world, anywhere in the world, MS-13, 20. But these are the worst gangs, and they get rid of them. They take them out. And I say, something's wrong when a place like Minnesota, which is a good place, it's got a horrible governor, it's got horrible people. This Ilhan Omar is horrible. I mean, she comes from a country that doesn't even have a government. They have nothing. And she comes here and she lectures us on the Constitution. She's got constitutional rights. She's just horrible. Somebody said she's worth $30 million. Well, therefore, she's obviously a very dishonest person. And she should be looked at for that. So you have a couple of things. You have the money thing, and then you have the all of the fake nonsense going on and screaming to people. They're so professional. They hold their cameras up high, and it's a terrible thing going on in Minnesota.
Well, you threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act if the governor did not get things under control. They clearly don't have things under control and don't seem to want to get them under control. You have these activists storming churches now, and they're still impeding these investigations of child sex offenders, murderers. At a press conference today at the White House, you held up a number of photos of the people that ICE has been deporting. The Insurrection Act would allow you, it requires essentially that if federal law cannot be enforced, you can invoke it and it would allow it to be enforced. So where are you with that threat, and do you still think it's necessary?
I don't think it is yet. It might be at some point. It is actually very common. You know, with me, they'll make it like a big deal, but it's been used by over 40% of the presidents during their term. It's something I would have no problem doing if I think we needed it. We have great people in ICE. They're strong people. They're smart people. And I don't think it's necessary yet. But, you know, I see they're building up like, oh, if he ever did that. Over 40% of the presidents used it. Some presidents used it actually many times. And it does make life a lot easier. You don't go through the court system. You don't, you know, it's just a much easier thing to do. But I don't think we need it at this point, and hopefully we won't need it. But I would not have any problem with invoking it if we needed it.
Well, as you pointed out, this is not just a problem in Minnesota. It's been a problem in Los Angeles and elsewhere. There's a new governor across the river in Virginia, Democrat Abigail Spanberger. The first thing she did when she came into office was repeal cooperation between ICE agents and local law enforcement. So what is your message or response to governors like her now deciding they're not going to work with ICE?
Well, I hope there are no problems, because if there are, she's not going to get it corrected very easily. And that's a bad signal. You know, that's not where the country is. The country doesn't want to see murderers and drug dealers and gang members and all come in from other countries and just stay in their area. Take a look at Washington, D.C. As you know better than anybody, it was very, very unsafe a year and a half ago, because now it's a year, so I have to go a little more than a year ago. But it was a very, very unsafe place, and now it's totally safe. It's a beautiful, I mean, people are walking with their kids to restaurants. They meet their husband at a restaurant. The restaurants were all closing. Now the restaurants are all opening. The place is beautiful. And you have good-looking, solid military people walking around. It's actually, I think it's almost like an enhancement. Everybody feels safe. Washington, D.C. is a different place. If you go to, well, it's happening in Louisiana, where you have, you know, we put some of the security in Louisiana. Go to Memphis, go to different places. I mean, wherever we put it, it's good. Now, even in Chicago, we got the crime down a little bit. We did just a little minor version of it, but we get no cooperation. Yeah. If I were a Democrat governor, I would say, boy, would I love to have Trump come in here so I could show some good numbers. But anywhere we go, everywhere we go, it's good. And by the way, the numbers are way down in Minnesota. You know, if you go to Minnesota, the numbers are down because of us. But it's like pulling teeth.
Well, one of the first things that you did when you came into the White House for the second time is you signed the Laken Riley Act after Laken Riley was murdered by a criminal illegal alien here from Venezuela. Why do you think that Democrats are defending these types of people? What's the reasoning behind that?
Well, it's not only defending, it's like Laken Riley is, you mentioned the name and they don't even want to talk about it. You see it at State of the Union addresses, you introduce people there. You know, their young child was killed by a horrible human being, and the Democrats sit there and they won't clap, they won't acknowledge. You know, the mother and father stand up, they're devastated, and the Democrats are just sitting there. They won't smile, they won't clap. There's something wrong with them. Maybe it's Trump derangement syndrome, but no, there's something wrong with them. You introduce a family whose child was just lost, and they're sitting there and they're just stone-faced. Is a meanness. They're a mean group of people.
You're on your way to Davos this week.
Right.
There's a lot of talk about Greenland, of course. European leaders are not so happy about your increased pressure to acquire Greenland. For the average American who maybe doesn't understand why the United States is pursuing this piece of property,
right.
What do you say to them? Why do we need Greenland?
It's located in such a place that is literally so important for national security. When you come to Russia, when you come to China, a lot of Chinese boats, a lot of Russian, ships, military ships. It's in a location that is very important for our national security and also for the international security of the world, literally. It's a very big piece of land. It's really cold, got a lot of ice on it. So it's not like we're going to build a nice real estate development or anything.
No golf course on Greenland?
Well, I don't see a golf course. You'd have to wear a lot of very heavy clothing. We're not going to set any records with golf, but I will tell you that it's very important to the United States. And as an example, we're building the Golden Dome, which we're going to have a dome over the country. If somebody wants to shoot missiles, it'll knock them out of the air like matchsticks. It'll go very nicely. It's amazing. Ronald Reagan wanted this many, many years ago. He was ahead of his time. But the problem is you didn't have equipment that worked. Today, the equipment is unbelievable. You've seen it. I mean, we can knock a missile coming at thousands of miles an hour. It's like, and you get literally 100% of them. The technology is so good. So we're building a Golden Dome, and having Greenland makes it a much more effective Golden Dome.
So you're saying Greenland is essential for the security of the United States and the free Western world for
Correct.
the sake of missile defense.
That is correct.
And that's why we need Greenland.
That is correct. And even beyond missile defense, but it is so important for the Golden Dome. It's so important for just national and actually international security.
So the European Union has said that in response to your pursuit of Greenland, they will launch a, quote, trade bazooka at the United States.
Damn.
What do you think that means, and what is your response to Europe threatening some kind of trade war with
I don't
the United
think they know what it means, actually, but they already do trade bazookas. They fine our companies billions of dollars, like Apple and Google and lots of them, 15, 16, 17 billion dollars.
He ain't lying,
and we shouldn't be
y'all.
doing that. We just signed a deal with them. And it's a good deal. It's a big deal. And had we not had tariffs, we wouldn't have been able to sign anything like it. But they need that deal. So I don't think they really know what a bazooka means. And, see anything they do with us, I'll just meet it. All I have to do is meet it. And it's going to go ricocheting backward. But we're not looking at that. We'll probably be able to work something out, possibly even during the next few days in Davos.
So looking back here at home domestically, last year you worked with Congress very closely, Republicans in charge of both the House and the Senate, and of course you're in the White House, and you worked with them on the big, beautiful bill. For 2026, especially in a midterm election year, what is your goal for Congress in terms of getting your agenda through? What is on the agenda? What expectations do you have for Congress?
Well, one of the things I'd like to do, we pass so many executive orders. I have great executive orders that are really common sense and good and like water coming out of a sink. The water wouldn't come out. They had all sorts of ridiculous restrictions. I took all of that off. Coming out of the shower head, you'd stand under a shower, there's no water coming out. So I passed so many things like that, straws, They don't have to be paper anymore. They don't have to melt in your mouth. So I pass so many different things like that, and much more important things, but like that. They're important, the quality of life. And I'd like to have all of that confirmed by Congress if we can. And we've done a lot of it. We've done probably 35, 40%. I'd like to get them all confirmed, every one of them.
So you want your executive orders codified in law, so to speak?
Ideally, we get them codified, and we get them codified soon, yes.
So the mortgage rates are down in terms of the economy. Inflation has slowed. Gas prices are down. The budget deficit has been cut significantly by tariffs.
These are very good things, Katie.
What do you think the economy is going to look like now that the legislation from last year will be kicking in and the Biden agenda will be no longer in place?
So we have thousands of businesses being built right now. Because of tariffs, we've taken in so much money. And what's happened is, in order not to pay the tariff, they don't have to pay it. All they have to do is build their business here. So all over the world, they're coming and they're building car plants, AI plants, massive buildings and small buildings, but literally thousands of them. We've never had anything like it. And you've seen that. $18 trillion is coming in. No country's ever been even close to that. And I think it's just going to be an explosion of success. I would be very surprised if it wasn't. There's never been anything like $18 trillion. You go back, if you see $2 trillion or $3 trillion, that's a lot. We're at 18. And by the way, that's through 11 months. I assume I'm going to add something for the last month, which was now we just finished our 12th month. So we're going to be over $18 trillion. There's never been anything like that in the history of our country.
So when you're talking to these companies who are investing in the United States, saying they're going to build new plants, how do you ensure that they continue that investment after you leave office? Similar to your executive orders getting codified by Congress, how do you ensure that those deals actually come through?
Well, once they build the plant, they're sort of here. You know, they're spending billions of dollars to build a plant. They're going to be here. That means, you know, they're not going anywhere. They can't put it on their back and bring it over to another country. So I think the big thing is to get it built now during my administration. And once they build, you know, they're building a building that costs $2 billion, $10 billion in some cases, and in some cases, 50 and 60 billion, you know, the AI. Wow. And with AI, I'm letting them build their own electric plants so they can build the electric, because, you know, creating that kind of electricity for us, for China, okay, but we're beating China badly on AI. We're doing incredibly well. The approval process is going so quickly. You know, if you look at the approvals, it's such a big deal getting that. We have Lee Zeldin, who's done a fantastic job, but all of those houses in California that burned down, they had their approvals within 2 weeks, federal approvals. Federal approvals are tougher than the local approvals. We had everybody done in 2 weeks. The whole place is finished, ready to go. Okay. That was a year ago, more than a year ago. They don't have their state or their local approvals. The mayor has been unable, I guess the governor, I don't know if the governor's involved with it, but I think he is. And they have not been able to build their houses. That's crazy. It's a terrible thing.
As the U.S. moves into this AI race and you pursue more AI at home, you mentioned these electric plants. Are you interested in more nuclear as well, given that it seems AI is going to surpass the electricity production that the United States can produce on the timeline that AI is working on?
Well, AI is now going to make their own electricity, which is a beauty. I'm giving them a permit where they can make their own. They're going to make their own. They're going to become essentially a utility. They're going to make their own electricity, which is pretty amazing. And they're coming in with plants. You wouldn't believe it. You know, they're building these massive buildings, and the grid system, you know, can't handle that. We need double the electricity with all that's being built now. We need more than double the electricity that we have in the country now for everything. Think of that. Now, you can't do that unless they want to build their own plants. So we're giving approvals to build their own electric plants, and they're coming in with unbelievable electric plants. They're going to make their own electricity while they're building their plant. They're building an electric plant. That solves the problem.
You've had a goal for a long time to use tariff revenue to replace the income tax for Americans. Where are you in fulfilling that goal?
Well, I think if we can win this case, I think at some point in the not too distant future, it's an option. Or you can just make a lot of money and keep the money and spend it wisely and, you know, spend it on building the country, rebuilding and building the country. But no, I think the revenue will be such that we could, if we wanted, replace the income tax sometime in the not very distant future. You know, the income tax started in 1913. Until then, we had tariffs. Our country was the richest. If you go back to 1887, that was probably the single richest point that our country was ever in.
1887.
And it was all tariff income. We didn't have an income tax. In 1913, they started with the income tax, and then
1913.
we had a problem in 1929, a little thing called the Depression, which knocked the hell out of everyone. Then they tried bringing back tariffs a year later, 2 years later to save it, but that was it was gone. You'd say this sucker was gone. And, you know, had I not been elected, you would have had, in my opinion, this would have been Venezuela on steroids. And by the way, Venezuela's an amazing thing that just took place a couple of weeks ago.
Speaking of Venezuela, there was a weapon used, a sonic weapon, that took out many of the Cuban bodyguards that were used to defend Maduro. Lots of people saw the details about that weapon and were concerned. Is that something that Americans should be afraid of, something the United States is combating?
Yeah, it's something I don't want to, nobody else has it. We have weapons that nobody knows about. And I say it's probably good not to talk about them, but we have some amazing weapons. That was an amazing attack. Don't forget, that house was in the middle of a fort, an army base, a big one, a lot of soldiers, and they came in and they did their job. We lost nobody.
Do you feel like Maduro is going to make some kind of deal when it comes to the charges he's up against, to give you intelligence about what the Russians and Iranians have been doing in his country?
Well, I'm leaving that up to the Department of Justice. We'll see how it all goes. But look, he killed a lot of people. I mean, when you look at what happened with the drugs. And he also was responsible, more than any other country, for emptying his jails, his mental institutions, just emptied them out and brought them into the United States. And that's what we're talking when we talk about Minnesota, when we talk about all this crime stuff. We're getting rid of, Biden left us a mess. We're getting rid of the mess. He had open borders. He had an open border policy. So Maduro came in and let all of his criminals into the United States because of Biden's open border. They didn't even question. They'd look at some people, they say, they're criminals. I don't want to get into it. They'd say, they're criminals. And it's, come on in.
Yeah.
And what we're doing is getting them out. And believe me, it takes a big part of my time. This was a self-imposed error. This was just a terrible, what they did to this country can never be forgotten. He was the worst president. And what Biden did, and you know, it's the people that use the auto pen, you can call it a lot of different things. But he was surrounded by people, the beautiful Resolute desk in the Oval Office, which I'll show you right after this. But it's beautiful, but it was surrounded by radical left lunatics. And what they did to this country can never be forgotten. They let in millions of criminals. You know, you have probably 25 million people that were let into this country. And no checking, no vetting, no anything. Many of them came from prisons. Many of them came from mental institutions, gang members, drug dealers. They just let them into our country.
Yeah.
And I've got to get them out.
Iran, you mentioned in the press conference today that you did in the briefing room with reporters that they canceled or at least put on hold hundreds of hangings that were scheduled. Yeah. However, there are reports that they are still burning thousands of protesters alive. They also issued an assassination threat against you over the weekend. I know that you can't talk about what's on the table, but what is your response to Iran's leadership and their regime continuing to taunt you, threaten you, especially given over the weekend you said it's time for new leadership in Iran?
Well, they shouldn't be doing it, but I've left notification. Anything ever happens, we're going to blow the whole country is going to get blown up. So we've, you know, originally Biden should have said something. You know, when they made a statement, we always said, why isn't Biden saying anything? Because he didn't. But a president has to defend a president. Like, if I were here and they were making that threat to somebody, not even a president, but somebody, like they did with me, I would absolutely hit them so hard. But I have very firm instructions. Anything happens, they're going to wipe them off the face of this earth.
This is day 365 of your first term back in office, but it's also been 9 years since the first time you came into the White House as the president.
You knew me right at the beginning, too.
I did indeed. It seems like your team is having some fun. You're not only the commander-in-chief, but there's also some trolling in chief going on with the internet wars. Are you enjoying your time back on the internet and talking to your detractors, maybe some people you're opposed to, through some humor, while also having rigorous debates?
Well, it's really a way of communicating today that you didn't have in the past. It's good. I guess I've been pretty good at it. But it's a way of defending yourself against the fake news. You have such bad, I don't know why they're that way. I don't know why. Why would they want to have criminals in our country? Why would they want to have men playing in women's sports or transgender for everybody, as I say? It's like, why would they do it? But that's the media. The media is very biased, very unfair. We have a very unfair media in this country. So with the internet, we can, I guess, look, I won. We can more than make up for what they do.
You finally have a viable business.
And all from my mom's garage.
So one of your legacy items has been freeing hostages all over the world. Israeli hostages, American hostages. American Dennis Coyle has been taken hostage by the Taliban for almost a year now. His family has been speaking out. Molly Long went on News Nation last week to ask for some more public attention to this case. What is your administration doing to get him home?
Well, if you give me the name.
Dennis Coyle.
Okay, you give me some information, I'll take care of that.
I know that your administration is working.
I know they are, but I could do some things on the internet that are pretty.
Do you have any response or message to the Taliban for who continues to hold him for no crime, for simply
Well, I'm not
being in
happy about them
Afghanistan?
holding anybody, and especially if he's not guilty of anything. And it sounds, from what I've heard, and again, I'm not that familiar with it like you are, but I will certainly take a very strong position on it.
So you pointed out a ton of your accomplishments throughout the last 365 days. You brought a much thicker book today to the briefing than this one. What do you want your legacy to be now that you have 3 years left in your term?
I would love my legacy to be that I was a great president, and a great president covers a lot of territory. We were safe, we were prosperous, we were doing well, we were happy as a country. I'd like to be known as a great president. A great president takes it all in.
You have a different cabinet structure this time around. The first term, you had a lot of turnover in the cabinet. It caused a lot of political capital to be spent. It was a distraction from the work that you're trying to do with your agenda. This time around, you have lots of different people in your cabinet from different kinds of backgrounds, many of them from the private sector. How do you manage keeping everybody on the same team? It seems like everyone this time around is rowing in the same direction. Very different attitude than last time around.
We had a really successful first term. I rebuilt the military. We got the biggest tax cuts in history, biggest regulation cuts in history. You know that. We had one of the most, really the most successful economy in the history of our country. And the first term was great, but it was corrupted by fake, but the fake news, the fake politicians, everything. Russia, the hoax of the century, all of the different things. And in a way, I was the hunted. And now I'm more of the hunter, I must tell you. And these are bad people. These are sick people. I don't know, something wrong with them. But this is more pleasurable. There's no question about it. But my first term was one of the most successful presidencies. But literally, I was hunted by these horrible people.
America has a very big birthday this year, 250 years.
Right.
Have you ever sat to, thought about reflecting on the fact that you're the president now? George Washington was the president many, many years ago, and what that means for you as an American and what it means for the country.
Well, it's so interesting because I was the president and won. We had a great election against Hillary Clinton. Then the next election was rigged like nobody's ever seen, and all the numbers are out, but more are coming out. It was 100% rigged. And the good part is this is such an important presidency, and I'm not sure I could have had the same impact if it were more normalized, because, the impact is big. This has been a very important presidency. It's a much stronger presidency than the first term, and yet the first term we had, I rebuilt the military. I did things that were incredible in the first term, but this, I think, is blowing it away. It's going to blow it away. There is somebody that you are very familiar with that wrote something. I won't mention names. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But they said that but not somebody that necessarily would write well about me, said this is probably the best first year their president has ever had. And if you look at that list that you have there, and that's a small version of it, but nobody's done more than we've done. You know, when the biggest tax cuts in history, the biggest regulation cuts in history, all of the military victories that we've had. I mean, we've really, and we're respected all over the world again. I mean, we were laughed at. Think of it. A year and a half ago, we were a joke. We were considered a joke as a nation. A year and a half ago, as the king of Saudi Arabia said, a year and a half ago, you were a dead nation. Now you're the hottest. We are the hottest nation anywhere in the world. And I love saying it. We are now the hottest nation anywhere in the world, and it's not even close.
Is there something that you wanted to happen last year that didn't? Is there something that you think your administration could have done better?
Well, last year, you mean last term?
Last year, you're during your first year in your second term,
So
or during your
my
first term?
year. So I would say this. I think we're clicking on all cylinders. I don't want to get greedy and say, oh, gee, I wish I could have done this. Crime is at an all-time low, despite the fact that we inherited many criminals from the Biden open border policy. So crime is at an all-time low. Our military is doing unbelievable. We are the most powerful military in the world. We showed that with Iran. If you look at the Iran nuclear attack, we knocked out their nuclear capability, which was a big thing, which led to peace in the Middle East. We actually have peace in the Middle East. Nobody thought that was possible. The recent Venezuela attack was incredible. No, from a military standpoint, strategically, people have never seen anything like it. It's been amazing. So I don't think I can ask for the economy. We have the number one economy. We have the best economy we've ever had. And by the way, prices are coming way down.
On the economy, you've made it clear that you want to transfer the U.S. economy from one that's based on federal government subsidies and employment to more of a private sector economy. Where are you in that transition process?
Good. I mean, look, I hate to fire people, but we fired hundreds of thousands of federal employees because we had 10 people to do one job. And those people probably didn't like it very much. And now they're in the private sector and they're getting 2 and 3 times more money and they're doing well. And the only way a country can make it, you can't have too many government jobs because that's not a job that's going to, as we say, make America great again. So those people have now transitioned into the private sector. I could give you the greatest numbers ever. I'll just hire 1 million or 2 million federal workers tomorrow, and you'll see that we're going to be at 2.5% as opposed to 3% or 3.5%. You could do anything. That's what the Democrats do. They hire people to work in the federal government, then they say they have good unemployment numbers, okay? I don't do that. And it's easy to do, and it looks good, but ultimately you can't build a country that way. Our country is doing unbelievably well. We have great unemployment numbers, and we really, I mean, many of these people have transitioned already from the federal government into private jobs.
You expressed some frustration earlier that your message of your accomplishments is not getting out. Why do you think that is? I mean, you're talking about all these lowered prices, inflation has gone down, mortgage rates are below 6% for the first time in many years. What do you attribute to you feeling like you can't get your accomplishments highlighted?
Inflation is down to a very low number. You want it to be at the number it is at now. Last month, it was down to 1%. And Biden had it, it was the highest inflation in history. And when I inherited this economy that he gave me, the prices were through the roof. I got them down. I mean, most prices are down now. Look at gasoline at $1.99 a gallon versus, I mean, we have many states where it's less than $1.99. It was $4.50, $5, $3.75, I guess, sometimes. But basically, they were many times what it is right now. No, we've done a great job. I think the economy is phenomenal. We're rebuilding the military, continue to rebuild it. And again, right now, we're recognized as having the strongest military in the world. And I rebuilt the military in my first term.
How are you feeling about the midterm elections, the Republican Party? Do you have contingency plans in place if Democrats were to take either the House or the Senate, given that last time when Democrats were in charge of the House, they impeached you?
Oh, and they'll do it again. They'll find something. They'll impeach me for having a good economy or something.
Can you work with some of them, like Elizabeth Warren?
They got nowhere, wasted a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money. It was a terrible thing. They're just very dishonest people. But they impeached me twice, once over a phone call that was absolutely perfect, the other one over perfect. And I will say the Republicans stuck with me 100%, but probably they will try and, they won't even have to try and fight. They'll take anything I do. They'll say, they'll impeach me because I did an interview with you. They'll impeach me because I looked to that side of the room. These are bad people. And these are bad people. You know, when Hillary Clinton did all of the bad stuff, I didn't want to destroy her. I said, I can't do it. And not so much Secretary of State. It was that she's the wife of a president, and I didn't want to do it. And yet they tried to do it to me, which is pretty sad.
You're a builder, and that hasn't stopped since you came into the White House, especially in your first year. What is the status of the Arc de Trump that you want to put on, I believe, Memorial Bridge?
That's going to be so great.
And also, what is the status of the construction of the ballroom?
Okay, so the ballroom's under budget, it's ahead of schedule. We're making it incredible. We're going to have inaugurations there. It's high ceilings and big space, can hold probably 5,000-6,000 people. Indoor, bulletproof glass, everything.
And for those who've been complaining about the ballroom, what is the purpose of the ballroom? Why do we need a ballroom at the White House?
Because the White House was never built with a big room. It's got when we have a big guest here, they build a tent out on the lawn, and if it rains, you're in deep trouble. They have a tent, and it's the only place you can build it sort of at a low spot. If it rains, the water pours into the tent. The whole thing is a disaster. And I said, you know, after the first, I would have done the first term, but I was under such siege with all these crazy people that I really wanted to focus on that. I thought it was, and when I came back, I said, you know, we're going to get this White House a ballroom like they have never seen before, and it is a beauty. It's going to be it's going to be the most beautiful ballroom in the world. But they need it. They can't use tents. Even from a safety standpoint, you can't use a tent. This is all bulletproof glass, drone-proof ceilings. And I think they're going to end up having all of their, because it's so cold on January 20th, and I think they'll end up having the inaugurations right in that ballroom. Think of it. You walk from the White House, just a short little walk through a very secure area. But I think because it's, number one, it's too cold. Number two, it gets unsafe out there.
It gets unsafe out there. You have experienced some threats. You've been attempted to be killed twice in assassination. We saw our dear friend Charlie Kirk killed last year.
Dangerous stuff.
Are you afraid for your safety? Do you worry about that? What about your family? I know it was tough.
I don't worry about it. And we have great people. And I feel that we're in good shape.
You're in good shape.
I think the Secret Service has done a great job. The military has done a great job. And one thing I know, if something happens, the person that did it is going to be gone because we are surrounded. You know, even as we speak, we are surrounded. But no, I feel very good. It's a job that has its dangers, if you think, right? You look at the percentages, it's probably the most dangerous job in the world. I was telling people, I guess it's 5.5%. It's a bad number, 5.5%. That's a lot. You know what that means, right?
Why don't you tell me what that means?
If you're a race car driver, 0.1% die. If you're a bull rider, 0.1% die. If you're a president, it's 5.2%. That's a big difference. Why didn't you tell me, Katie, that this would happen? I could have done something else. Maybe I could have done something else. But
well, you decided to do it again.
Look, I love doing it because we're doing a great job. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Our country has turned around. We have the greatest country in the world. And again, we came from such a low standard. I believe that if Kamala won the election, this country would have been, even by now, 1 year, it would have been finished. We wouldn't be a country.
Do you believe that there's a Republican presidential candidate in the future who can continue to carry on your legacy and the work that you'll be doing over the next 3 years?
I hope so. And we certainly have a good bench. We have some very talented people.
Do you have any favorites, or do you have any?
I do, but it's so early. You know, I mean, I do actually, but it's so early that it's, you know, I don't
that could change if you want to tell me what they are now.
No, but we have great people. You see what's happening. I mean, the people that we have in so many, I'm not just talking about one or two. We have so many great people.
Who is so many?
I tried a ton of AI work tools. Then I tried Monday.com. Game over. Monday.
Well, JD's been great. Marco's been great. Scott's been great. Everybody's been great. Look at Tom Homan and Christie, the job they've done with security. Don't forget, we had people pouring in the millions. They were just walking right into our country, destroying our country. We stopped it. We have I could name 20 people that are phenomenal.
In terms of the White House and how you've changed things around here, when you look at the Oval Office from your first term, it's very different than the Oval Office now. How do you decide which portraits you're putting in the Oval, what kind of decor you have in there? I know that you get a lot of gifts from foreign leaders when they come. How do you make decisions about what you want to be surrounded by when you're making these big decisions?
Well, it's just taste, but you know, the White House and the Oval Office had very few paintings in it. Biden had one. Obama had, the American flag, and, sort of a painting of the American flag. But they had very few paintings. And I spent a lot of time downstairs they have a vault where they have 1,000 paintings, beautiful paintings. Some of them hadn't been shown in 150 years, think of it. And they were incredible, of presidents, mostly of presidents, landscapes, other things, but mostly of presidents. And I spent a little time doing it. I love doing it. And I took out paintings there's a couple right here that are so unbelievable. Look all over the room. These are unbelievable art. And I researched it, and I spent time doing it. And I took paintings that have been sealed for over 100 years, more than that, much more than that in some cases, and found great paintings. And we put them up for people to see. And cost nothing. We have them. We didn't have to go out and buy them. They're there.
Yeah.
But they weren't used. And it's honoring some of the great presidents.
Mr. President, thank you so much for taking the time today. It was an honor to see you here at the White House. Congratulations on 1 year.
And congratulations.
Of course, we'll be following, everything that you're doing, and safe travels to Davos.
And you're going to do a great job, I have no doubt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No one believes that I am doing anything because anybody's pulling my strings, and they understand the things that I am fighting for.
Hello, and welcome to The Conversation. I'm Dasha Burns, Politico's White House bureau chief, and every week on this show, I invite one of the most compelling and sometimes unexpected power players in Washington and beyond in for a chat to find out how they're navigating and shaping this incredible era of American politics. We're nearly 1 month into the government shutdown, guys. This is our 5th show in the shutdown. Now, things may be shifting, but there's still no clear off-ramp in sight. And one of the most interesting things I've been watching is the messaging around this fight. And my guest this week is someone who knows all about that. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Crockett is no stranger to the viral moment. And throughout the shutdown, she's been posting on TikTok, Instagram, X, and YouTube. She represents a wing of the Democratic Party that's often making noise and sometimes stirring controversy. To some, that feels fresh and necessary, like exactly what Democrats need. To others, they worry that her approach moves Democrats further from the center and alienates exactly the type of voter the polls say they've lost. I really wanted to know how she sees it. How does she think she's impacting the party? We talked earlier this week when she was in California campaigning for Prop 50. That's the ballot initiative that would redraw the state's maps in favor of Democrats. We talked about that fight and the redistricting that's happening in her home state of Texas, plus her potential Senate run. Here's my conversation with Representative Jasmine Crockett. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Absolutely.
Let's start with the government shutdown. That's still going. A lot of other headlines floating around, but the government is in fact still shut down. When this airs, it will have been almost exactly a month, and Americans are starting to feel the impact. Millions of people could lose their SNAP benefits as soon as this weekend. We've seen flight delays, and now the Federal Workers Union is calling for Democratic leaders to stand down in this fight. Give us a state of play from where you sit. What have you heard from your constituents, and what is the latest from the House Democrats on this?
You know, honestly, this has probably been the most effective messaging that we've done as Democrats. It has been very clear why we are fighting. I mean, when we look at the numbers, it is clear that whether you're MAGA, Republican, Independent, or Democrat, you believe that it is wrong to limit people's access to health care in the form of getting rid of or allowing the expiration of those tax subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. And so I do think that, number one, it's been very effective messaging. But number two, it is clear that the Democrats are fighting for the basic humanity of all Americans. And I think that that is why we find ourselves in this very weird situation, because basically the Republicans want to say choose between the two impossible situations. Either people will be able to potentially eat today, but tomorrow they won't be able to eat because of the cuts that we made in the big ugly bill, or tomorrow they won't be able to eat because they actually will not survive to see another day. We are only getting a preview of what's going to happen as relates to them removing almost $300 billion from SNAP benefits. That is a very real thing that we are on the precipice of. So I will say to those that believe that now is the time to back down, I disagree. There are still levers to be pulled. We have an administration that just wants to continue to deal blows and death to the American people. And people need to understand that this is where the Republicans stand. Right now, there are emergency funds that they could use so that people could continue to eat as relates to SNAP. And the president has decided not to allow that to be used.
Yeah, they've concluded that they can't legally fund SNAP right now. Eventually, though, for this shutdown to end, Democrats are going to have to reopen the government. They're going to have to vote for a CR. What do you think gets them there?
As it relates to this administration caring about the law, they've never cared about the law. That is a cop-out as it relates to this administration, because they could care less about the law. But first of all, it would maybe take a president who actually wants to negotiate. This is supposed to be the guy that understands the art of the deal. You can't negotiate when you decide that you're going to traipse around the world instead of making this a priority. He's not made it a priority to look out for the American people ever since he swore in. If it was a priority, he would be sitting in the Oval Office. He would be leading with leaders from both the House and the Senate, Democrats and Republicans, to determine what it would take. And frankly, they have said over and over, we've made it very clear. We know that these tax subsidies are going to expire. So we're just trying to say, hey, go ahead and extend them right now. They're saying open the government, and then, of course, we will work with you. Well, if you can work with us once the government is open, why can't you work with us to get the government back open? It takes communication. That is what normal politicians would do. Instead, what Trump wants the Democrats to do is to be the same lazy, sorry elected officials that the Republicans have been, where they just let him do whatever he wants to. The Democrats at least understand that they have constituents that are relying on them to look out for them, to make the case for them, to enter into an agreement on their behalf. And that is not what Donald Trump wants. So what do I think it will take? I think that if we look at history, our last shutdown was under the same president. What it took was air traffic controllers. And I think that that's why you've seen the disruptions that you've seen. They decided to change the law to make it more difficult for air traffic controllers to actually organize something like that. But as much as they beat up on our federal workers, they decide to fire them, they decide to call them lazy, all the things. Sometimes it's about showing people who's boss. And the reality is that this government does not run without the people that actually work in it.
Let me ask you about Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Of course, you and her are not the best of friends, pretty famously so. But she has crossed party lines to criticize Republicans for this looming rise in healthcare premiums. How do you see that move by her and in the context of all of that we're talking about?
Yeah, so a couple of things about that. Number one, again, about reopening the government, and Marjorie has specifically said that they could use the nuclear option if they wanted to. So just so you know, there's also that's on the table, which is breaking the filibuster to get this done. That's number one. She also has talked about the healthcare costs. Now, I agree with her as much as it pains me. Right is right, wrong is wrong.
That's on the record. We're saying that on the record. You agree with her.
It's on the record that Marjorie and I agree. But unfortunately, most of this was done without her really paying attention. The fact that premiums are going up is a result of the big ugly bill. When people are looking at their open enrollment letters and they're seeing that the cost has gone up, that's not just because of the subsidy.
It is in large part because of the subsidies that were put in place by Democrats during COVID. So that's certainly part of it.
Partially, for sure. What I'm trying to say is that they are adding insult to injury. What people don't understand is that, and granted, we went out there and we made a big deal about the 15 to 17 million people that may be losing their Medicaid or their Medicare. We talked about that in the context of the big ugly bill. We talked about the $1 trillion that would come out of the healthcare ecosystem. But the reality is that if you're going to continue to have healthcare that is going to exist, then they're looking for ways to supplant that $1 trillion. And so therefore, healthcare costs were going up as a result of that now. But now you say, but we do have these subsidies that also help out with whatever the cost is for the healthcare. And now they're saying, if you are on the Affordable Care Act, because that's what we're talking about, these subsidies, now we're saying they are set to expire.
Yes,
and right
she
now
is.
they're not looking for a
she
way
is.
to help you out. So it's
Yes,
it's
she
a double
will.
whammy. We know that when it came to the House, the big ugly bill only passed by one vote. We know that there were Republicans that voted with the Democrats as it relates to the big ugly bill for completely different against it for completely different reasons, but nevertheless they did it. And unfortunately, we had 3 Democratic vacancies because we had 3 members of the Democratic caucus that had passed away. And so it is so frustrating to know how close it was and how there really was a possibility of maybe stopping some of this pain from being inflicted on the American people. But here we are.
And let me just clarify for those listening, when you talk about the big ugly bill, you are referring to Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Let's talk a little bit about you, though. You have emerged as a high-profile voice in the Democratic caucus, and rather quickly. How do you define your role within the party, and what do you think you sort of uniquely contribute to the party's national message?
Yeah, I feel like I'm on an island sometimes. I do feel like the weirdo sometimes.
Why is that?
Because, you talk about how quickly it's happened. And so there was really no playbook for how to effectively communicate. I'll be perfectly honest, because one of the things that people complain about Democrats with is how we communicate, right? So there was not this playbook, but as someone who has been a trial lawyer, who probably was one of the most recent ones who had come to Congress from straight from court, I understand how to talk to people. And frankly, I've just been literally just talking the same way that I would walk in and I have to pick a jury and people are coming from all different backgrounds. Yet at the same time, I have to make sure that I know the law because I'm going to have to make arguments to the judge. I understand who my audience is. And so I have been that way. I also understand that it's not necessarily the most effective to only talk to those news outlets that cover the political issues. I understand that everyone is impacted politically, whether they want to pay attention to politics or not. And so it's important to meet people where they are. But it can feel really weird sometimes because, for instance, you brought up my bestie, Marjorie Taylor Greene. And that was pretty early on in my political career as it relates to being a member of Congress. And I can remember walking on the floor the very next day. It was a very late night. We had not started committee.
Are you talking about the exchange with the eyelashes and the bleach blonde?
I am. And so the very next day, we had started committee on that day about 8 p.m. The very next day, I walk to the floor. We're doing votes before we fly out. And there are 2 little women in their 80s that are high-fiving me. It is Maxine Waters and Nancy Pelosi, 2 very well-known, fierce, yet definitely what you would probably consider to be older school kind of politicians. Have been in politics forever and they're older, but they are feisty and they know how to get things done, right? And then I would say that the middle age group, so those that I would consider to be aunties, so those that are in their 60s were really like, we don't know about this, right? Like they were the ones that were like, And then, of course, the people that are in my class and near my class, they were all like, fine. But it was very interesting to see that. And I think that that's one of the things that people don't understand about where we are is that there are kind of these generational groups. And I think that I saw that or felt that or got that from those that are in the 80s, because you're talking about women who were in the significant minority when they got into politics. And then I think that there became this group where it's like, okay, we're kind of normalizing. We're getting more women. We're getting more people of color. And now I think we're back to this shift of everything is out of whack. So it is interesting.
Well, and I think like the age group does kind of also mesh with ideology in some ways. I'm curious about your relationship with some of the more moderate House Democrats. Like, have you ever been told to tone it down by some people that maybe not like your communication approach?
So I will tell you that I've never gotten that from what I would consider to be most likely a frontliner. Most of our frontliners, those are the ones that are moderates. People have said that, quote unquote, on their behalf, but none of them have ever said anything to me. And frankly, I have been invited to many of their districts. They've got people that are like, hey, can you get Jasmine Crockett to come to the district? And I am always nervous about, as big of a figure as I am, right? Fox News loves to talk pretty negatively about me, to kind of walk into some of those spaces because I never want to hurt anyone. But frankly, that's not been my experience thus far. And so I think at the end of the day, whether you agree with my style or disagree with my style, I think people respect me for my authenticity. They never feel like they're getting someone different. They feel like they know exactly who they're getting. When I was on the ag committee, and even now that I'm not on the ag committee, there are groups that make a point to bring farmers to me to talk, because at the end of the day, I am just blatantly honest. And I think people respect it, even if they don't like it, like how I deliver it. And I think that that's one reason I've not caused any consternation for so many of these moderates. In addition to that, the final point that I'll make about this is that when they do their polling, they being the opposition, the Republicans, and they're trying to figure out a polarizing figure that they can tie, say, this more moderate member to, then they start running ads. And they say, oh, this person's going to be just like this radical over here. Well, they've not used me at all anywhere in the country. And as these random polls have been taking place in the state of Texas, looking at my favorabilities, if you look online and you see all the bots, then you may be like, oh my gosh, like she is completely hated. But at the end of the day, especially with the relationships that I have with even my Republican colleagues in the House, many of them like and respect me for who I am and what I stand for. And so I don't run into any problems.
You may not have been used in ads yet, but you mentioned Fox News, right? You have gained the attention of right-leaning media, of the president, who does tend to bring you up quite a bit. When you see clips of him talking about you or you on Fox News, do you see that as a good thing, as a bad thing? Like, how do you process that attention?
I process it as they believe that I'm a threat. Listen, you're not talking about anybody who's not relevant. That's just the reality. Like, no one is wasting capital on anyone that is not relevant. And so even when I look at the fact that, you know, every other week, I don't know how he manages to work myself and or AOC into conversations, but I do believe that they see us as threats, and they are trying to thwart those threats before they rise too much, right?
Yeah, I mean, why do you think that they've tried to sort of elevate you and others like AOC to become sort of the faces of the Democratic Party? That's kind of how they try to talk about you.
I think that personally they are threatened. When you look at AOC is the highest fundraising member in the U.S. House, period, above Democrats, Republicans. That is number one.
Like
when you look at the crowds that she garners when she goes out, that is a scary thing for him, right? And a lot of the people that I believe that he wants to appeal to, AOC is one of the few people that can actually break through. Well, I would argue that as much as I go against him, I would imagine that I get some of those folk too. I remember when we were doing our art competition in my district, and obviously it's open to all the kids in the district. And I remember a father coming up to me and telling me, I appreciate you for doing this competition. My daughter loved participating. I am a Republican, but I love you. I have been in all kinds of cities and airports and otherwise where people walk up to me and of course they don't have an R on their forehead, but they tell me that they have a difference when it comes to politics, but they love me. And so I think it is that actually concerns him. And it is a reason that he wants to make sure that he is doing everything that he can to stop us. But honestly, he only elevates us. It only makes people look at us and say, man, if he's threatened by, AOC, who's still in her 30s, and me, who's still technically in my early 40s, two women that are in the House, they must be doing something right.
You are in California right now, working on Prop 50, which is the redistricting proposition in California. Redistricting has been the subject of many a story in many a state these days. Your state has been impacted by the recent Texas redistricting. The new map is still obviously held up in courts, but your district is changing. I've heard you talk about the potential of a Senate run. Like, how seriously are you weighing that?
I am seriously weighing it to the extent that I'm about to spend a lot of money to get data. So I'm a data-driven person. I will tell you that I personally believe that Texas needs to do something different if they want a different result. That's just the bottom line. And so I think that we consistently have had absolutely top-notch candidates, by far better candidates than the Republicans have had, but we keep losing. And I know the demographics of the state, and I also know that there's a lack of participation in the state. And I don't think that we have the luxury, especially with us having such an early primary, of actually doing what we normally do, which we spend about $100 million to get someone's name ID up. But the way that I look at elections is that that's just first base. It's like, oh, great, we know your name. But second base is we got to know your story and actually like you. Third base is we've got to believe that you are going to do right by us. And fourth base is I got to do everything that I can, even if I got to stand in the rain, the snow.
What base are you on right now, you think?
So I think the name ID part is done. I think we're past first base.
First base check. Okay.
And the reason that I say that is because in all the random polls that are coming out, which I have not filed to be in the race, where people were just putting my name in there, Beto has the highest name ID on the Democratic side. Right below him is Colin Allred, and then is me. But even with my name ID not being as high as the two of them, Beto had 2 state runs, and then we also know that Colin Allred just ran statewide. I've only represented at most 1/38 of the state. So to have my name ID right up under them without ever having run statewide, in addition to the fact that the vast majority of these polls have me either being in first or me being
you're a front runner in a lot of the Democratic primary polls. So like, how far are you in exploring? Who have you talked to? Have you interviewed potential campaign staff?
There's only one person that I can see leading this team. It's somebody that I've known for years, somebody that I trust, and somebody who's very experienced. I will not put him out there.
But you've had that conversation.
Oh, absolutely. We've had multiple conversations, and we just took a meeting face-to-face here a few days ago as I was kind of running down what I'm thinking if numbers kind of show what I think they may show. And obviously we are weighing who may be the nominee on the Republican side. I mean, I'm going to be flat out with you and tell you that I don't think that there's a Democrat that can take out Cornyn. And I think NRSCC knows that, which is why they are spending so much money in this primary to make sure that he is the nominee. But for me, I would be making a very last minute decision because it's not just about winning the primary. You got to win the general. If they go through with their lines, I think that they need to face some serious repercussions. And I don't think that, if people in Texas are like, who is Jasmine Crockett, whether they like me, love me, or hate me, they can tell you who I am and they can tell you about my brand, right? And so I think that that is second base. So by the time we start spending money, I think it's less about people learning, oh, there's a Jasmine Crockett, who is she? And it's more about like, all right, do we like her enough to go out and knock doors, to make phone calls, to send text messages, to tell our neighbors, to get people riled up? I'm someone who lived in East Texas. And so I know what it is to live in rural Texas specifically. I still own a home in rural East Texas. And so that's actually where I came from and spent a good portion of my time as a Texan. And so I am able to go in and talk to those in small towns, not thinking that I'm necessarily going to win over a bunch of those areas, but to stop the bleeding and get those little blue dots that exist in those areas to actually be like, all right, we may have a shot, or at least I like her enough that I hope we've got a shot. So I'm going to show up.
Let me ask you, you mentioned your brand there. I'm curious what you think the Democratic Party's brand is right now, how voters see it, and what you say to people who think that the Dems, maybe on the shutdown they're fighting, but overall that they're not fighting hard enough.
We are not perceived as fighters, and we are perceived as weak. And this isn't me. This is as someone who traveled the country on behalf of not only Joe Biden, but Kamala Harris, and had real conversations. I'm like, don't just put me in donor rooms trying to get money. Like, put me out in the streets. Let me talk to the people. It's tough to have that perception. And I think it is because we've been the party of empathy. I mean, we care. I mean, we are fighting now really, really hard about healthcare because we care. We're very empathetic, like people. We absolutely have hearts that are longing for people to have better lives, right? And so there are those that look at that as weak. They are looking for the people that will give you this rhetoric around how, you know, immigrants are evil and we got to crush them, right? Like they're looking for that type of stuff. But, you know, it's only because they're supposed to be criminals. And now people understand the reality is that, no, you just have some people that have decided that they wanted to inflict harm on anyone that did not speak, quote unquote, the chosen language, or who had maybe a little too much melanin, or whatever the case may be. And even as you brought up Marjorie, she even has diverged on this point as well and talked about this is not the way to do immigration. Now she's complaining about her construction business and her friends that have construction businesses, but these are very real realities. They have continued to disparage people that have contributed to this country. And so I think the reality is starting to set in that maybe all that macho stuff isn't necessarily what we want. What we need is people that are going to be strong and fight for the most vulnerable amongst us. And I think that that is the brand that I have set out for myself, is that I want to fight for the American dream. I believe that it shouldn't matter what zip code you were born into. You should have an opportunity to ascend. That is what makes us uniquely American, is that we allegedly don't have this caste system, but instead you too can go from rags to riches. And I think that the con man in charge conned people into believing that all the ills that you're experiencing, whether it is crime in your community or whether it's the jobs that you don't have, it is because of these other people.
Fight is an interesting word because like people want to see a fighter, but sometimes I think they don't know exactly what that means and what it looks like in different politicians, in different frames. And I think, you know, you clearly are trying to be one of those fighters, but there are also some people in the Democratic Party that I think have like expressed concern that your way of fighting, that your confrontational communication style might rally the base, but could alienate swing voters. What do you say to those Democrats that are concerned that potentially your approach might hurt the party's ability to win in some of those competitive areas?
I'll tell you that we have Amelia Sykes, who's currently under attack with this redistricting fight. She's in Ohio. Amelia Sykes actually won her district, but Trump won her district. It was very, very close, but she made it through. I went to Amelia's district multiple times. Not because I said, hey, I'm showing up to your district, but because she asked me to come in.
Well, it's interesting because you said earlier, I think that like when you do that, you are actively thinking like, I don't want to hurt anybody by showing up. That's a calculation. That's something that's in your head too.
It is because there are those that think like what you just said, right? That I will hurt people. But when it comes down to the numbers, That's not been the case. Like, I mean, when it comes down to the facts, like, I think the Democrats are very cerebral and they have this idea of, well, we believe this is the kind of candidate that will get crossovers, or we believe doing this is what will get crossovers. It's more so what they believe versus what they have any actual data for, right? And so for me, even in a safe Democratic seat, I mean, there's a candidate down in Houston who's on the ballot for a special election. There's 16 people in this race. This is a safe Democratic seat. And I told him early on that I was endorsing him, but I told him we had to be strategic about it. But I also told him, because of my profile, that he needed to get the polling back to make sure that my favorability specifically in his district were good to go before we absolutely put me out there, because I always want to look at the data. Like, that's just who I am. And ultimately, he got the numbers back. The numbers were great. And so by the time I jumped into that race, we're doing radio, I'm doing robocalls, I went to churches, I went to rallies. We did all the things, but that is because I understand that there are those even on my side that will say things, and you never know how that is impacting the overall electorate. But at the end of the day, I don't have anything that suggests that I actually have hurt anyone. And I think it's what it is that you fight for. Now, you can hate my style, but at the end of the day, no one believes that I am doing anything because anybody's pulling my strings. And they understand the things that I am fighting for.
That's a lot of what I hear about President Trump from voters, and about people like John Fetterman and like Mamdani. It's a theme that crosses party lines. Before I let you go, I do want to ask briefly, you're in California. How do you see the Prop 50 effort to redistrict California?
I feel very good about Prop 50 going forward and passing. This isn't my first time being in California, but you got to run through the tape. That's what anybody who knows anything about any election, you don't take anything for granted. You leave nothing on the field. And it's just too important. And I think with Governor Newsom using both myself and AOC in ads in California, it's my understanding that they ran the numbers, right, to find out about whether or not our favorabilities were high or not. And so there's been ads that have been running, but I do think that I should always make myself available as someone who is a Texan, who is being impacted by this redistricting, to answer questions and to make sure that they know that I am out here not just saying, hey, California, carry our water, but instead I am willing to fight and work and be responsive to the people that I'm asking to do this amazing measure. And it's not just for Texas. It's for the entire country. And I feel really good about the chances of it passing, but we're going to keep fighting and run through the tape.
All right, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Listen, man, I'm tapping in. Thank y'all for tuning in with me tonight, man. I gave y'all 3 hours and a half. Y'all already know what it is, man. Look, I appreciate all the love. I appreciate all the subscribers. And I definitely appreciate the chat. Chat go crazy every time. Y'all be crazy as shit in the chat. But I appreciate y'all, man. I love y'all, man. For real. And I'll see y'all tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Thank y'all for tapping in. I'm gone.